This episode of the podcast is brought to you by HRH Combat Arms. They can turn your vision into reality. They specialize in gunsmithing and Cerakoting. Your Cerakote specialist is Air Force veteran and retired police sergeant Paul Ware, a.k.a. the Sarge. He can Cerakote your firearms, auto parts, tools, even your sports equipment. And then your master gunsmith is Marine veteran Steve Miller. This veteran-owned business is located at 5025 Saunders Suite, 103, Fort Worth, Texas, 76119. You can call them at 682-304-0363, and you can find them online at www.hrhcombatarms.com. That's www.hrhcombatarms.com. All right, we're back. Two Cops, One Donut. I'm your host, Eric Levine. Got some special guests with me today. I got some prosecutors. And before we get into this, though, I have some announcements to make. I was given some gifts for my show from some fans, some Two Cops, One Donut members, as I like to call them. It's like a members-only club.
I like it.
Nice. A little cooler, though. So I'll go over the first one. Where's my little notepad here? So Michael J. Newman, out of Pennsylvania, he does a Back the Blue coins and flags fundraiser. So he's been doing it for about the last 7 years for Leos, and he made this really cool coin, if you can see that. It's got like a lion on one side, and out of all the coins I have, as you can see in the background, really cool. I've got a ton of coins. This is one of my favorites. And anybody that watches the show knows that I'm pretty honest about my opinions on things. If I don't like it, I don't like it. We had Jay Novacek on the show, and I had him real nervous because he brought his whiskey in and wanted me to try it. And I was like, you know what? I would tell you if I didn't like this. And I just saw it on his face, and I was like, and I like this. This is pretty good. So let me show this to the camera real quick. St. Michael on there.
It's very pretty.
It's neat, yeah. Cool. And he gave me another coin. It's just got the thin blue line flag, and that offends some people. Some people it doesn't. It's just a symbol. Kind of represents cops, and then the other side is St. Michael, which is a common theme for police officers.
Isn't that like the patron saint of? What is it the patron saint of?
I don't know. He always looks like a warrior though, so he's pretty cool. Patron saint of law enforcement. Oh, that's what it says on the coin. I should have read. Cool. Education. Learning has occurred. So thank you, Michael Newman, and thank you for your support to police officers. He actually has his card. Oh, and by the way, he gave a little thank you. If you guys want to find his coin or anything like that, it will be posted on our Facebook page, so be sure to check that out. And then my second person I need to thank is Catherine Richards out of Ohio. She has a program called Adopt a Cop, and it's basically kind of the same thing, just showing appreciation to police officers. She gave me these rubber duckies that are little police officers, so it's kind of cute. And one of those humanizing the badge, dear officer, we need you notepads, which I want to leave it on the table so people see it, but you guys know how often we use these.
Yes.
And I use these all day long. I love notepads, so the notepads are a great idea, and these might not last on my table that long. I'm probably going to use them. So thank you, Catherine. Appreciate it. And go ahead and check her out on our Facebook page as well. She's got her Adopt a Cop, and that'll be easy to find because I'm going to post it again after this episode posts. So, all right, with that said, let's get into the nitty-gritty, the fun. I have Jessica, and I have William with me. And I'm going to go ahead and put the mic over to y'all. I'm going to let you just kind of give me your background. Where are you from? What's your education? What do you like to do?
Sure. My name is William. I'm from North Texas, born and raised. Went to undergrad at SMU and St. Mary's Law School. And I've been a prosecutor for a little over 6 years, been in law enforcement for almost 8.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you say you were in law enforcement, what do you mean?
I worked for another government agency before then in a law enforcement type role.
Really?
As an attorney, yes, sir.
What?
Yeah.
Okay. If I ask you, you're going to have to kill me, though, right? That's kind of how that goes.
Yeah.
You got like that mystique about you and your voice. I can hear it. Jessica, you've probably known William a little while. Has he So you got some killer instincts?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now you told me he's a Star Wars fan.
Oh, huge.
Okay.
Huge.
So when you
We can
got
talk
in,
about that all day.
so
I can
when
talk
you,
about that forever.
well, that's good.
Yeah.
This show is about, look, it's not that I want to just educate people. I want people to have someone to root for. So the more they get to know about you personally, the better and more receptive I think people will be of what you do. And I don't know if Keanu Reeves did y'all any favors as an attorney so many times in movies, and what was the other one?
Devil's Advocate.
Devil's Advocate.
One of my favorite movies.
I know.
It's so good.
It is great.
They make us look so bad. It's
I
just
know.
not how it is.
It gets
yeah.
a little dirty, but
Al
That's not how it
Pacino
is.
is like, it's Al Pacino, right?
and yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
can't go wrong.
I love
So,
it. Love it.
so yeah, I want people to get to know you. And if you're a Star Wars nerd, don't be ashamed. I am certainly not ashamed. Sorry.
We can talk about it all day long. What's your favorite Star Wars movie and why?
Favorite Star Wars movie is gotta be.
I'm going to judge you based on your answer, just letting you know up front.
No, I completely understand. I gotta say. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, there we go.
Empire Strikes Back.
Okay. You chose correctly.
Oh, that was the right
That
answer.
was the right answer. It was multiple choice. That was the right answer, though. I would have also accepted Rogue One, I think.
Oh yeah, great.
That was really
That
good.
was
That
really
was
good.
really good.
Yeah.
I'm not as neck deep into Star Wars as like him and our other friend is, but Rogue One was definitely.
I'm that guy. I just really appreciate any Star, like even bad ones. Like
Yeah.
I will fully admit there's some bad ones, but I still liked it.
Yeah.
Just because I appreciate the fandom. I'm a
So
fanboy.
good.
I guess that's what the kids are using these days. Fanboy, right? Yeah.
I'll take
Something
I
like
think
that.
so. Yeah.
So, okay. So you're a big Star Wars fan. What else do you like to do in your off time?
Love sports. Love all things college football. College football is probably my biggest hobby.
Okay.
So really excited to get that back.
So you're a
Going.
huge Wolverines fan, right?
I actually went. I saw SMU play at Michigan, and it was
went
kind
to
of a bucket list thing to be at the big house and see SMU play, and it was a really unique experience.
Isn't it?
It was
Crazy.
It was. I've never seen. I mean, it's just masses of people.
Yeah.
And you know, I've been to some pretty big football stadiums, but that one is really on another level.
Right.
And you walk out. I think we had second row, 50-yard line. I mean, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity, so we really did it right. But you walk out, and I think we were on row 70.
Okay.
Out of 110,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so there are 40 above you, and you walk down 70 rows to get to your seats. It just took forever. I mean, and you kind of turn around and look up, and there are just masses of people.
You can feel the energy
yes
in that place.
Yes.
It's crazy. I went there when they did the Winter Classic, and it was the largest audience they've ever had. It was like 120 something thousand
Yeah.
because they could put you down on the field itself because the ice rink obviously isn't nearly as big as a football field. So it was crazy, so loud. But it's the Wings, and it was back when they were still pretty good, and so I had a blast. But yeah, that stadium is crazy. And now I root for TCU too because I'm an alumni, I guess you could say. So, which brings me to Miss Jessica here. Met her in college. She got lucky. She got to meet me and be teamed up with me.
I will say, I was a little concerned about being teamed up with him, though.
As you should be.
Yeah,
That's funny.
I was a little worried. Didn't know how we were gonna mesh. Turned out okay though.
Turned out we meshed just fine.
Yes.
It was our third wheel that we didn't mesh so well with.
That's the class we wrote the entire paper for, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is this a group project?
Yes.
It was a
Oh
group
my
project,
gosh.
which
Thank
why
God
you would
those days are over.
why
Group
you would do
projects are
that
the worst.
in a master's program. Why?
Yeah.
I'm like we're beyond that. We're focusing on honing our own skills now.
Yeah, just don't go back. If you don't want to do it, just don't do it. No one's forcing you. Like, if you don't want to participate in the group project, why are you in a master's program? You know? Like that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the one
Yeah.
who didn't participate.
Yeah, the
yeah.
one
Yeah.
who didn't do anything.
Yeah.
You know, that doesn't make sense to me.
Well, we worked it out.
Yeah, it's fine. We got the A.
Yeah, we did. So it was nice.
So,
But
yeah.
okay, ma'am. Let's hear a little bit about you.
So I am originally from South Louisiana, but I grew up in the East Texas area. I got my undergrad at UNT. I got my law degree at A&M, and I had my master's at TCU. And then I I've been a prosecutor for a little over 6 years. I've been a prosecutor for, I guess, a little over 5 now, maybe. And then I was with an appellate court before that. So I was writing before that.
Okay. All right. So. Cool. All right. Well, let's start educating the folks on prosecutorial DA. What do you guys go by? District attorneys or prosecutors, or what do you prefer?
Just, I don't know. Either one. They're interchangeable.
Yeah. They're interchangeable?
Yeah.
I would say most people are more familiar with the term prosecutor than assistant district attorney because
for sure
the district attorney is an elected official and we work for an individual.
Okay. That makes sense.
That's why we're called ADAs.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. I'm stupid. I never knew that. So, okay. So first thing I kind of want to get up to is education. Okay. You got to go to law school, I'm assuming.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you go to law school. How long is law school?
Forever.
It feels like an eternity, but generally speaking, it's 3 years unless you're, doing a night program or getting a joint degree.
Okay.
And you have to take the LSAT before you can.
I know exactly what the LSAT is. I watched Legally Blonde like a million times.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
She got 179 on that, by the way.
Yeah.
So what did you get?
Not a 179.
Yeah, no.
I didn't do poorly, but I didn't do a 179.
She did better than
179 is almost unheard of, though.
Yeah.
Really?
It's out of 180. So
it's out of 180. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
So that's how she got into Harvard.
Yes.
That makes so much more sense.
And from what I understand too, and it's a little personally, I think it's a little ridiculous because I think they base law schools base a lot on that LSAT.
Really?
And, yes. Mm-hmm. And I will tell you that LSAT does nothing to prepare you for law school.
Nothing.
Oh. It has nothing to do with anything.
It has nothing to do with anything.
Well, that goes into a big thing that I tell a lot of officers. You'll get these rookie officers that come in with their 4-year degree and think that because they have a 4-year degree in criminal justice, which is the hardest degree out there next to underwater basket weaving.
That's my undergrad.
Yeah, right. So, yeah, they come in thinking they're hot shit and that they know law enforcement. They'll even talk that they know law enforcement to people that they're outside the norm, that don't do the job. And I have learned, and I'm sure you can attest to this, that college gives you perspective and it provides you opportunity. And I think that's about what college is for. Now, obviously, yours is a little more technical because you actually kind of have to know laws. So we go down a lot of rabbit holes on this show, and I'm about to take you down one right now just because it's in my head and I don't want to lose the thought. So people think cops should know the laws. Now, you guys deal with the laws all the time. All of the laws. I mean, there's a ton of them. Mm-hmm. So can you explain how reasonable or unreasonable it is to know all the laws?
Well, it's just impossible to know every one of them. I mean, I think I've got the code book I have on my desk, just the main code book, and there are many, but it's 3 inches thick, 3 or 4 inches thick, and it's impossible to know everything in the book. I will say though that it is cool to meet officers who do know just about everything there is to know about the law. And it's really impressive how much some officers know, especially if you can get a trooper on the stand, a DPS trooper who knows everything about the transportation code. They've got it memorized forwards and backwards, or anything relating to, the laws regarding what 18-wheelers can and can't do. I think that's really fascinating that they kind of have that top-of-mind awareness of all of those laws that we only use, occasionally to prove up a traffic stop or something, but they know it backwards and forwards.
But then that goes into kind of one of the arguments I make that they're a specialist. They don't know all the law, but they know that up and down, right? And for your general patrol officer, he's dealing with domestics, assaults, thefts, harassment. So I agree they should know those laws, but when it comes to the obscure stuff, anything outside of that realm is obscure to an officer, like catalytic converter thefts and knowing regulated metal laws and occupations, health and occupations codes and weird things like that. So it's good to hear from two people that do the job, telling people like, look, it's not reasonable. Like attorneys specialize, just like a doctor specializes. So
like anything else, like, you have, certain offenses that maybe pop up a lot. But I'm in my code book all the time.
Constantly.
Like,
Right.
I've got it tabbed so I can, like, the ones that maybe, because, you know, it's not that I second guess myself, but, you know, in our profession, I want to make sure that, you know, what I'm doing is correct. So I'm constantly double checking myself. I have the offenses that are most prominent that I go to all the time. Those are tabbed so I can get to them quickly. So, you know, there's not a time that you walk by my office that I don't have my code book open, and it sits right next to me, so I have good, easy access to it.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I try to explain to citizens is like, I know you broke a law. I know that you can't just punch somebody in the face, you know, unless it's like self-defense, but I don't know what the law number is off the top of my head. I don't know any of that. I got to go look at it. But you're still under arrest, and I'm going to put you in cuffs and put you in the back of the car. And then when I do my paperwork, I'm going to look up that offense, and I'm going to be like, that's the specific one that I was looking for. This meets all the elements of the offense that you committed. So when people demand on site, like, what law did I break? Shit, I don't know. One of them. I'm pretty sure. I just got to figure it out. Give me a second. You're still going to be put in cuffs. Yeah. So it's fun. It's funny, but it's not funny. But we got to start breaking down some of these unrealistic expectations of cops and even prosecutors. I mean, if you guys don't know the laws by heart, and you got a law degree, I only had like a 4-week block of law in the academy, and then I just happened to go to college, so I got a little bit more law, but.
Well, I think there's also been a substantial amount of laws added in the recent years, because I was talking to a chief the other day, and he was talking about how the code book used to be like this. Yeah. You know, it was, I mean, the penal code was like this, and now it's not. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. So. I think that's my penal code book up there.
Yeah. That one's like, what, 4 inches thick? It's a pretty big book.
I'd say 6.
It's a pretty big book.
It's a large book, sir.
But there's a reason they call it practicing law, right? Because you can never perfect it. Same thing with medicine. Like, you're never going to be perfect at it. You know, that's why they call it practicing.
That's a good way to think about it. I never thought of it that way. Okay, so law school, 3 years. Is there like a continuing to get higher? Like, what's the point, like, for y'all to go to school further?
Well, I think, me personally, because law school doesn't protect you, doesn't prepare you to practice law either. Like, you do go to law school, and then you get in the real world, and you're like, what the actual daisies did I just do?
You can swear in here.
So, you know, I think what law school does is it teaches you, it changes the way you think. Like, it teaches you to think analytically. It teaches you to look at things in a different way than you did before. Yeah. But substance-wise, does nothing for your law, like, to practice law at all. Nothing.
Really? Mm-hmm. Huh.
I take that back. My Courtroom Prep class was pretty legit.
Yeah, it does some. I think most lawyers would agree that it's kind of insufficient for preparing you to actually, you know, go out and practice like day one. You know, and that's why, I don't know, I think doctors are better prepared because they have residency and internships and things like that, where we don't do that. You know, you're kind of expected to have internships during your summers and things like that, and then that's where you kind of learn the more practical things, and then, you know, you're doing the book learning during the school year, and then you kind of turn those internships into a career after that.
And if you in law school, it's your responsibility to go out and do internships. So, like, anybody that's in law school or wanting to do that, I would encourage you to do internships. Go out there, go different insurance, whatever you think that you're interested in, go intern and find out if that's something that you really want to do, you know, and get those practical skills, because you're not going to learn that in the school. So take the initiative, do internships, go different places, whether it's criminal or, you know, personal injury or whatever. And
bankruptcy.
Yeah, sure. I mean, find out if it's something that interests you and if you like it. And DA's office, you know, have internships. Defense attorneys do internships. We see them all around the courthouse all the time. Judges have interns. So
really,
yeah.
You can be a judge intern?
I'm not sure what they do, but
they do. I know they do research projects for some of the judges. But I think on specific cases, but also just in general, if they're putting together like a paper, you know, judges author papers. Some judges are professors or part-time law professors, part-time professors at different universities. So they put together, you know, different papers and things, and interns help them do research. And then they also kind of get the practical experience of like sitting in the courtroom and, you know, seeing a trial or seeing a hearing or something like that. So that's a pretty cool internship to have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they're out there. So if that's something you're doing, then go for it.
True or false? You guys have put the judges' robes on at least once when they weren't looking.
False.
Never?
False.
I heard they're extremely hot. Like
I
heard they
guess
sweat
never
in them.
I knew a
They've
judge
gotta
that
be.
used his graduation robe.
That's funny. I mean, they do keep the courtrooms at like 60 degrees for a reason. I mean, we're all wearing suits, but if you've got a suit on and a robe on top of it, I wouldn't be surprised if that was pretty hot.
Yeah. Yeah. I came in and one of the judges was just like, he took it off and he just sat back and he's reading over my warrant. He's like, give me a second.
Yeah.
On your time, Judge, whatever you need. So, let's go down another rabbit hole. Why is there so much like Your Majesty around them? What is that about?
I think it's a respect, you know, for me personally. If I'm going into a courtroom, it's, you know, it's the judge's domain. And just like if I'm going to go into someone's home, I'm going to show respect to the court and to the judge.
Okay.
So I ask permission before I leave, all of that. You know, if I'm done with something, then I ask the judge, you know, Judge, may I be excused?
I'm scared of them. So I'm that way out of fear.
Yeah, and I think it helps too because we know, I mean, like we've been working with the same judges for a long time. And defense attorneys too, everybody kind of has a really good working relationship. So there's a almost kind of friendship between everyone. Tarrant County, I think, is special in that sense that there is a really great working relationship between all parties involved. So as far as like, you know, as you said, Your Majesty, I think for me personally, it's really just respect, to show respect to the bench, show respect to the court. So that's kind of my thought.
Gotcha.
I agree with that. I think, you know, the rule of law is kind of the bedrock of liberty. Like it's one of the most important things of our society, and the courtroom is where, you know, the laws are enforced. So I think it's important that there's a certain level of respect in that room. But I think that a lot of what we do in the courtroom is really just tradition.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it is still very formal, and it can be even more or less formal depending on what court you're in. But if you look at, you know, the history of our judicial system and where we came from, England is extremely formal.
Yeah.
You know,
powdered wigs and all that good stuff. Yeah.
Right. And so, you know, we've kind of evolved from that to change what they do and to make it our own. But, you know, I think tradition is a big part of why we do what we do in a courtroom.
Not going to lie. If I was a judge, powdered wig all the time.
Oh, talk about being hot.
Yeah, but still.
What makes me sad is where did the gavel go?
They don't have that?
I don't ever see one out there, and I never hear someone bang it.
No. They've got one. I've seen.
They
I
have
wanna
them.
be
They're
in
all
court.
ceremonial, though.
Man, I want to be in court and have someone bang a gavel.
Right? I've had some search warrants and stuff and seen it sitting there. I don't know if it was used, but
Yeah, just like ceremonial. It's got something etched on the side of it, like congratulations, judge, on your election from whoever it is or whatever. I've whenever a judge wants to silence the courtroom and they're really mad, I've seen someone just pound their fist on the table.
That makes sense.
I've never seen an actual gavel get used. It's usually just their fist, which is very rare.
So the system, you talked about how courts used to be back in the day and how it's very traditional and stuff like that. Society's getting more and more informal. I mean, social media, all that stuff, you can see that society does, and especially those that don't have the same education levels. And I don't fault anybody that doesn't have the same education levels for not understanding or not even respecting those court rules. So how much latitude is given, if any, to those? I mean, I'm sure the attorneys do their damnedest as defense attorneys to be like, shut your mouth. Like, this is serious business. This is the guy you need to be your friend. So don't come in here acting a fool. But if you don't know you're acting a fool, that's just how you were raised. Like, if you got something to say, you say it, whether it's your turn or not.
Which I saw happen today, by the way.
Yeah, usually that doesn't go well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for y'all, how do you cope with that? It's going to get worse. I just think it's just going to keep degrading.
Well, the court, the judge is really the master of the domain, right? So, you know, I've seen you dress appropriately. And like you said, I think that's where the defense attorney comes in. Like, this is, you know, dress appropriately. I think defense attorneys really try to guide their clients as far as how to be appropriate in court. I mean, I've seen judges put people that were like, if they come in late and they have like holes in their jeans, they're going to jail. He holds them, he voices the bond. And since I've seen judges hold someone in contempt.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Like, so it just really, I think, depends on the judge. I've also, I heard a judge today, he was talking and the defendant cut him off and just like, was I finished? And I was like,
dang.
And so, and the guy, I mean, obviously stopped. So, I mean, he is the master of his domain. So I think it really depends, in my opinion, I think it really depends on how the judge runs his courtroom. Like,
okay.
I knew some judges, so it's a rabbit hole. So I used to, I
love them.
I knew, they worked for Court of Appeals. It was Judge Dolfino and, Judge, was it Dolfino and, I can't remember who the other judge was at the top of my head, but they were some of the first women attorneys in Fort Worth. Right. So like Dolfino, she was a criminal defense attorney. She worked for a defense firm and she could only represent women. Like she wasn't allowed to represent men. Now, as a result, she got some of the first burning bed cases in the state.
Wow.
Obviously, it was a woman who did that. Now, I say all that to say.
You want to explain what the burning bed is?
The burning bed is that movie that Farrah Fawcett did. It was a woman, it's kind of when the domestic violence was first coming to light. And basically, she wrapped her husband up in a mattress, beat the crap out of him, and then caught the mattress on fire with him in it. And so, but I remember her telling me, she goes, at the time, like, you weren't allowed to wear pants. Like, women had to wear skirts, and you had to wear stockings. So, like, they were some of the first women that ever wore pants in a Tarrant County courtroom. But the judge dictated what you could wear. Like, what happened in that courtroom is what the judge decides. So, I think it's just kind of a lot of what the judge allows.
Yeah, I mean, but I think that judges treat lawyers and peace officers a lot differently than civilians. It's been my experience that, judges are understanding of what you talked about, right? That like the average person doesn't know exactly how they're supposed to act in a courtroom, and not just defendants, but victims and their family members from those sides. So, it's one thing for a lawyer to act. If a lawyer is not doing what they need to be doing, the judge will be pretty harsh and correct that immediately. Whereas, I've seen judges be pretty understanding and lax with civilians, because I think you have to be.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you don't, like you said, if you don't know, how can you really get mad at them?
Right.
You
and I also think it depends on how you're going to take it. Like, or is that civilian going to come in and try to cut the judge off in the middle of, you know what I'm saying? Whereas you come in and you're contrite, you're like, I did whatever. I think attitude plays a lot into it.
Yeah. Well. Is it ignorance, or is it like you're being deliberately disrespectful?
Yeah.
And I think it's pretty easy to see the difference.
Yeah. Can you aim when you talk? Yeah. You don't have to duck down, just aim towards it. Cause you
I know I tend to turn.
You're talking to him. Just talk right to that mic. No. Okay. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to get down on it. This is about prosecutors and whatnot, but it's just interesting y'all's perspective on your holiness, your honor, the judge. So like I said, the judge always have a good time with me because I'm nonstop silly when I'm there, and not during court proceedings, obviously, but when I'm up there to get like search warrants signed and whatnot, just chill with them, call them Judgito and all the fun things from movie quotes and whatnot. And they all seem to have a good sense of humor about it. I just never sat down and asked them like, do you like all that stuff? Yeah, I would feel awkward, like personally. So, okay. Well, let's stick to the judging stuff. Prosecutor, is it a normal transition to go from being a prosecutor to being the DA to being a judge? Is that the normal path? Is that?
I don't know that there's a normal path necessarily.
No.
You can take trial experience and kind of go a lot of different ways with it. You can leave the DA's office and go into private practice, and you can be a defense lawyer, or you can go work and do insurance defense. You can be a personal injury attorney. I think we both know attorneys who have done all of those things. There are lots of people who run for judge or things like that. You can kind of turn that into
like the law hawk.
Well, he's still a defense lawyer.
He's defense, right?
Yeah. He's a
love
defense
that
lawyer.
guy.
Yeah. He's a really nice dude.
He is.
Yeah.
I took a burglary report for him one time.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that, so I'll ask him about that.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that
story. It was
story.
right when he first kicked off. when he first, like his first video came out, I think he just found out he was going to be on the Super Bowl.
Oh, the taco thing.
Yeah, the taco thing.
We walked down to Taco Bell and had a taco in his honor.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a super cool guy. He was nice.
He's really nice.
His commercials, I love him. I love his portrayal of the police too.
They're
Gotta have a sense of humor about yourself.
Yeah,
So.
they're ridiculous.
They are. But that was kind of the point of his commercials, to show how ridiculous attorneys were being with, Texas Hammer. Like, y'all are a little more ridiculous down south than they are up north. I promise you.
Oh, really? It's not like that up there?
Oh, no. I never seen anything like that till I came down here.
Wow.
And there's like 4 or 5 attorneys on. I've never seen commercials other than like the boring, nerdy, if you were injured,
Oh, yeah.
And
the ones you see during the soap operas during the day.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what I'm talking about. So, okay. I'm just curious. Like, police, it's paramilitary, chain of command. You move up the ranks and stuff like that. So
I think it's important to understand too that prosecutor to judge, it's not a ranking system, right? We're 3 separate entities. So you have the state, you have the court, and you have the defense attorney, right?
Okay.
We're all 3 different. So you can go from a judge to a prosecutor, which has happened. You can go from a prosecutor to judge, defense to prosecutor.
Oh.
It's 3 working parts. It's not like you go from here to here to here.
Yeah.
Right? So I often tell, like when I'm explaining the way things work, it's like, I'm told, the judge tells you where to be, when to be, and what we're going to be doing. And then I show up, and then the defense attorney shows up.
Yeah.
And the judge is a neutral party. He's just there to play referee and make sure, but it's not like, it's not paramilitary. There's not a ranking system.
Oh, okay. I mean, I knew obviously the defense is its own separate thing, but I just automatically assumed that the judge and the prosecutor are all, y'all are getting paid by the same people, stuff like that. So, okay. Interesting. So obviously the cool part of prosecution is, I think to any movie I've ever seen where the prosecutor's just up there just handing it to some suspect or witness or whatever it is, I like Blue Bloods, so I think of I can't remember her name on the show, but that female DA on there, or prosecutor, it's awesome, but that ain't how you start out. So you get done with college, you interned, I'm assuming, prior to or whatever, and you decide you're going to go down the prosecutor route. That's where you want to go. You want to practice law on that side. So walk me through, how did that go for you?
Well, I kind of knew this is what I wanted to do for a really, really long time. So for me, it wasn't something I had to figure out. That was always kind of the path that I wanted to go down. And so in undergrad, I just took the LSAT, got ready, applied to law school. I tried to put myself in the best position possible when I applied with whatever internships I could. I was a runner at a law firm. Just kind of did random office work for a lawyer, law office in town, some other things like that, to kind of, show interest. Like, I'm not just applying to law school out of the blue. Take the LSAT, get your application ready, and then apply. And so I went straight from undergrad into law school. But you don't have to do that. There are lots of people who go back to law school. I went to law school with people who were in their 50s, who had careers and just decided, they'd put their kids through school. It was a dream they always had, and they just decided to go for it later in life. So there's not any one set path to do that. I just chose to go straight through.
Okay, so once you go to law school and all that, now is it like McDonald's? You put an application in? How does that work?
Yeah, so each school is different. So each school has its own application. So when you apply, the questions are similar. You can kind of do a little bit, I guess, of copying and pasting from, like, if you have an essay that you've got to, or a personal statement that you've got to write, you can kind of reuse that. But each application is different. So you are filling out, however many applications you have,
okay,
wherever you're going. So however many law schools you're applying to, that's how many applications you're doing. So, and it's a lot of work. It's you want it to be right. You want every checkbox or whatever to be filled out correctly. And work on your personal statement to talk about why you should be admitted to law school. So you do that for each school.
So you apply once you're done with law school. Mm-hmm. What happens after that?
To get to the DA or get to the job?
Yes.
The bar? you apply to take the bar exam. So the way most law schools do it, the way my law school did it, graduation's on Saturday. Everyone's really happy. This is great. We made it through this, this really difficult time. We've accomplished this goal of getting this law degree. And then at 8 a.m. on Monday is when bar prep starts. So it is the very start of the next week, and it is all day long. As long as you can sit there and read all day for the next 2.5 months.
Every day.
Every single day.
Really?
Oh yeah.
And how long from the time you graduated till you take that bar?
So you graduate. So they do it twice a year. Well, pre-COVID, you did it twice a year, and you did it in February and July. And it takes 3 months to get the results back. So you take it in July. So example, we took it in July. We went and saw a movie Thursday night, and then I flew to Sweden for 2 weeks. And came back, started a job, and then you don't know whether you pass till October.
That's a random location. Why Sweden?
I actually went to law school with a guy that was where he was from. So a big group of us went.
Okay.
So just to kind of break it out. But
nice.
Yeah.
How was it?
It was fun. It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Good time?
Yeah. We were, It was I think uncharacteristically hot because like we stayed in Stockholm and there was like 9 of us. So we stayed at a hostel, but there were so many of us that we got our own room, which is pretty cool. But they don't have ACs over there because it's not okay. And it got like 80, 90 degrees. So it was hot.
Yeah.
And so, but then like we stayed at Stockholm for a few days, and then we drove about halfway across the country, which is not that big. And we stayed at some friend's house on a lake, and then we continued on to his mom had a lake house, a beach house. So then we stayed there the rest of the time.
That's awesome.
And then flew back. And went
nice. Yeah, I want to take my girls, the wife and kids, eventually to Europe, and we kind of want to hit it all.
I'll tell you, the best trip I did was Italy, and I'd go back in a heartbeat.
Oh, yeah. If I do Italy, I want to do 2 weeks. If I do Germany, I want to do 2 weeks. I don't want to like do a day here, do a day there. I don't want to do that. So when I go, I want my girls to be a little older. Right now, they're preteen. Yeah. I want them to be in their teen years where the education side will be very valuable to them, and they'll understand it. And then I really need my wife to graduate nursing school so we can afford to do that stuff. So, because right now it's a 1-income family house, and it's paying for her school to get her through. But team.
Like speaking of Italy, like the one place I didn't get to go and I want to go back was it Lake Como?
Lake Como, yeah, my dad went there.
Like he talks about it all the time, and like we didn't get to go, and I was like, I want to go back because
it's picturesque.
It's
I know
paradise.
Yeah,
and that's. Did you know? Bringing this back to Star Wars full circle. Did you know that that's where Anakin and Padme got
made out? Yeah,
they got married.
Yeah, I didn't know that was Lake Como.
That is,
but now that I'm reflecting, that makes sense.
That's where it was, because when I went there, there's a boat tour that we were on, and they went to the spot, and I was like, oh my gosh, I recognize that. And then they started talking about it. I was like, wow.
Okay, now I see why you brought him. Like, as long as you can bring it back to Star Wars somehow,
it's always back to Star Wars.
It's going to be a good podcast.
You can always bring it back. Yeah.
See, you need to get on board, lady.
I know. I've seen them all. I haven't seen I haven't seen the Clone Wars. I haven't seen the animation stuff.
Okay.
So, but I've seen all the movies and.
Yeah, you need to see the Bad Batch.
They got me hooked on PlayStation, so one thing at a time, man. Like,
oh, jeez. I can't get into games. You see how addictive personality. I told you, I started this 75 days ago, and look, I have a damn studio in my house.
Well, I went from a PS4 to PS. Now I have both. I have a VR system. Like, it's a thing. Like, it's a thing.
VR system.
I do. I have the PlayStation VR. Dude, Beat Saber rocks.
So you are into Star Wars. That game premise is Star Wars. That's a lightsaber.
Yes, you have 2 lightsabers. They're pretty legit.
That is awesome. See, nobody would think prosecutors do all that stuff.
Right. Well,
I would think you guys go home and read the law.
Well, if I'm a grand jury.
I just don't think you can do it all day and then go home and read the law. I mean, if you have to work late, you work late, and then you're just kind of off. It's like I stopped watching Law and Order. I think a couple of years ago. It used to be one of my favorite things. And it's just when you do it for how many hours a day, you just can't.
I was that way for most cop shows, and then Blue Bloods came out, and I'm like, you know what? This is like.
Dude, I love Tom Selleck, though.
Yes. Man. For one, Tom Selleck, he's my spirit animal.
Which Wahlberg is on there?
Donnie. Yeah.
Donnie?
Yeah.
He's married to Jenny McCarthy, right?
Oh.
Isn't he? in Donnie Marburg?
I just know he was on New Kids on the Block.
Oh, he was.
Yeah. That was
Dude,
the first band I ever watched.
Dude, I had the pillowcase, the pajamas, had it
Yep.
all.
Same. The all pink, like, as a boy, that was very, like, it was a confusing time because I'm like, I love the New Kids on the Block, but I got a pink, like, comforter.
Do you remember the cartoon they had that Saturday morning? It was that and MC Hammer. Did you ever see
Yes.
that?
Yeah, Hammer Time. Yeah.
Well, they had a New Kids on the Block one too.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't see that one. I
I wonder
don't
if
think.
you could YouTube and find that.
Oh, for sure. You can YouTube
everything's
everything.
on the internet.
Yeah.
That's on there for sure.
I remember Saturday morning. They both had cartoons for both shows. I watched both of them Saturday morning.
No shit. I did not remember a New Kids on the Block one.
That was back when you had like legitimate Saturday morning cartoons.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, like, then you looked forward to it. Now kids just have everything. Which, don't get me wrong, as a parent, it's kind of nice. Because you can be like,
Stream it.
go watch. Yeah. Becomes a babysitter real quick.
You should check out Lake Como though. You should add that to the list. It is.
That is
one of my favorite places.
I want to do Germany first. Like, that's my top one. I want to do Germany, and then Italy. So I want to do those two first. But like I said, I think those two countries alone, you got to dedicate 2 weeks. And then I really want to do England, but not so much for England because I really want to go to Scotland and Ireland. So I want to go to those two places. I think England will be cool. Don't get me wrong. I really want a pub crawl, like traditionally. I don't know what I'm going to do with my kids at the time, but it's kind of one of the things I want to do. And the other countries that you don't hear about so much, Sweden, Austria, is it still Germany? I mean,
it's Austria, yeah.
That's still Germany, right? What's the, or is it right next to Germany?
North of Italy.
Is it? Yeah. So, I don't know my geography that well. That's why I'm a cop. So anyway, I want to do like Switzerland. I want to see that, but I don't want to spend 2 weeks in Switzerland. So yeah.
But I think something too, like when you get over there, it doesn't take a lot to like fly. So when we went to Sweden, a couple friends of ours, when we went home and then they hopped a flight to Paris, and it was
that's awesome.
$50.
Yeah.
So once you get over there, the in-sight flights are like not very. It's not
There
very
we go.
expensive.
Okay. So they are separate. That makes sense now. Croatia. I don't want to go there.
So.
But I'm sorry. I get down these rabbit holes. So true or false? You guys have quotas?
False.
I know. The people don't know that, though. This is a question that somebody asked me. Do they have quotas? Do they have to throw so many people in jail?
No.
Oh, so let's, all right, while we're on that topic, what is the point of your job?
Well, it's in the code. It's kind of a unique job. Our job is, description is actually in the Code of Criminal Procedure, and it's to seek justice. So it's our job is literally to do the right thing.
So your job is Batman.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think Batman does some bad things.
Yeah, but it's all in the name of justice, sir.
That I guess that's true.
So
a little different.
Yeah,
a little different.
I'm just saying, if I
kind of breaks the law frequently.
If I were y'all, I would have a bat cave at home. I'm just saying something.
I mean, you kind of do, right?
Yeah, well, it's man cave.
Yeah,
it's a little bit
man
of
cave for sure.
It's as much as I can fit in. Like, it would be this room and the next room combined, but we had to have a mother-in-law suite. My mother-in-law lives with us, so not that there's anything wrong with her. She's great. Don't get me wrong. But if she wasn't here, that wall would be gone. This would be one giant man cave. So I'm making do. Like you said, it looks
so much bigger on YouTube.
Yeah, that's what
Like,
she
I
said.
wasn't expecting.
So yeah, it's
I walked right into that one.
Yep.
You did.
So it's cramped in here, and we're doing all right. It's getting better. I'm glad you guys came on here.
Thanks for having us.
It's working out. Okay, so you guys, you take the bar, you pass. That's got to be a great feeling. If you fail, what happens?
You can take it up to 5 times.
Oh, okay.
But you can't practice law, obviously, without it.
Do you have any friends that passed it on the 5th try?
Yes, 1.
I don't think I do. I know of someone who passed it on the 3rd try.
Okay.
But I don't think I've known anyone who's taken it. I know some people who have like failed on the 3rd time. I know of them. I didn't know them very well, but I heard that they just kind of give up after that, which is, obviously really sad.
God, yeah.
And I will say, I walked out of the bar and I was like, I'll see you bitches in February. Like, I thought I was coming back.
Yeah. I'm done.
I don't know. I felt like on mine, I think I got lucky with the essays that they asked. I mean, there's such a broad range of essay questions that they can ask you. I feel like on the multiple choice, you kind of know what's coming, and it's just really hard. So it's 3 days long. So the first day is a half day, which is a 4-hour test. And then the second day, it's changed since we took it, but the middle day was 100 multiple choice in the morning, 100 multiple choice in the afternoon all day long. And then the last day was essays in the morning, essays in the afternoon, but there are different topics that they can choose from. So that like this essay might be one of 2 topics or something like that, but there are multiple subjects that they can choose in each one of those topics. So if they hit something that maybe isn't your specialty or your something really well, that essay might be weak for you, and you need to really crush the one you do know.
Like,
so,
I hated oil and gas. Wouldn't like, I swear 4 of the freaking questions were oil and gas.
We're in Texas. You should kind of expect it.
He took the words right out of my mouth.
Terrible.
I'm not a Texas native, but when in Rome.
They told us it's Texas is going to be on the exam.
Yeah.
That's what the guy said.
Dang.
Terrible.
So is it a pass fail? Is it?
No, there's a number.
There's a number.
I have no idea what mine was. I just saw that first sentence you passed and like, great.
Yep. I don't care about the rest.
It could have been 2 points. It could have been 100 points. I honestly do not know.
Yeah, I was real fixated in college about 4.0. I wanted 4.0. And I did really well up until like the last semester, second to last semester. And I got an A minus. And I didn't know an A minus. I thought that was still a 4.0. It's not.
375.
Yep.
And it dropped my grade point average. And you know who cares about that? Not a damn person. You know why?
You did at the time.
I did at the time, but looking back now, I'm just like, it's more of a pride thing, ego. Yeah. Other than that, but
you're competitive with yourself. You want to do well.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a good thing.
Yep. Always competitive with myself, and trying to be an example for kiddos, my kids. I don't care about you guys as kids, so.
I have no kids, so we're good.
There you go.
That's hilarious.
How many kids you got?
I have 0.
Zero kids. Neither one of you guys have kids. Dang, living your best life. I love it. I'm jelly. No, I'm just kidding. I love kids.
It's not pass fail. I think the passing score on the bar exam when we were taking, I'm sure it's changed because they've changed around the exam, but it was 675 out of 1,000 possible points. Mm-hmm. And they say that most people who fail barely fail, and most people who pass barely pass. So one of the reasons that it takes so long to get your score back is because they will, if you're pretty close and close within like, I think 50 or 75 points, they will regrade your exam and try to give you every possible point to pass.
Oh.
Because it's also important to remember up until a few years ago, all that was handwritten.
Oh, Jesus.
So you understand, like, they're going through and like, so the first and the third day is all handwritten. So they're having to read.
Oh my God.
And how many people take the bar a year?
How long ago did this switch?
I honestly don't know.
To being online or just total?
Yeah, to getting rid of the handwriting.
Well, when I
you
took
can still
it,
write.
Oh my God.
Well, so I think when I took it, there were only so many computer spots, and so they encouraged you if that's important to you, if you can type really well but you have poor handwriting, which that was the situation I was in. They encouraged you to go apply to do that right now, like the moment you could turn in your application to take it on the essay portion on your computer, and you had to pay the extra fee.
Yeah,
and make sure that they you've got the application in, that they have it, and you've sent them the money so that you can be in line to do that, because I have terrible handwriting, and so I wanted to make sure that that didn't affect my grade.
I write like a doctor without the pay, so yeah, there's no way.
I don't know. I don't think there's a limit when I took it, because I think I probably took it after you did. Like you have to pay the money, and then you have to download they give you a program that you download because you bring your own computer, and it literally locks. Like you open that app, and that's it. You can't access anything else on your computer.
Oh.
And it basically makes your computer a typewriter.
Oh, okay. Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Saves money, I suppose.
But considering that, they have to read everybody's, because they're looking for certain things in those essays. Which
could be subjective in a sense. I'm sure there's elements you have to hit, if you're talking about the elements of offense.
You're right. Yeah. Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Elements of a cause of action civilly, or elements of an offense. Yeah. Okay. You've got to kind of they're looking for buzzwords and things like that. But if they can't read your handwriting, that's why it takes so long to get the exam results back, is because they grade everybody, and then if you're close, they regrade them.
which sounds like it would be a lot because, like you said, you either barely pass or you barely fail. So
yeah, I knew of someone in my class who got like a 665 or something. I mean,
and passing is
675.
Oh my god, I'd be so mad.
Yeah,
dang. Hey,
Just imagine how deflated you feel. Like
Brutal.
just 10 points. That's
yeah. It's like at ours, when you promote, because we're civil service, there's a list. You know if you passed or if you failed. So
it's because your promotions, like you apply and you take a test. Is that how
yes,
that works?
yes.
Okay.
So if you qualify, meaning you meet the years in service, you put your name on the list to take the test. So you're signing up, and then you take the test, and you have to pass with a 70 to get the points you qualify for. So like say you have an education, so you got, a master's degree, you get so many bonus points towards your test, or military service, you get some bonus points towards your test, things like that. So if you get a 69 on the test, you don't get any of those points. So if you failed by 1 point, that is a real kick in the junk because you're going to get guys that got a 70 and they're going to get 13 points. Like that's the most you can get. They're going to get 13 points added to their test, and they're going to promote over people that got like, an 80, 85 raw, but they have no extra points.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that kind of stinks, but it's just the way the system is. So I get what you mean as far as, God, for y'all, it's a lot different though. Yours is so much harder than what I have to do. I just have to go out there and.
Yeah, for us though, if you fail, you get to take at least the bar prep class that I took. You could sit for it again for free. So it's like a one-time fee. You don't have to pay to take the bar prep course again. It's really expensive.
Yeah, that bar prep course was
really expensive.
How much was that? Like 3,000?
No, it was more. I think
$5?
They encourage everyone. The big thing is when you go to law school, they want you to lock your rate in as a 1L because it goes up 10% or so every year. So I think I paid $36.50.
I think mine was
Dang.
About that.
Mm-hmm. So you're bringing up a question for me. Law school in general. I know the price range of that's got to vary massively based on the reputation of the college, but generally speaking, how big is it? For me, it didn't matter. Criminal justice, I try to tell this to all cops. If you're going to get your bachelor's in criminal justice, for God's sakes, don't go to Harvard to get your criminal justice degree. It doesn't matter. But for your law degree, how much does that play a role?
How much does what play a role?
How much does the school you went to play a role in you getting
a job?
A job.
I don't know. I think it maybe depends on like what you're wanting to do maybe and where you live.
100%. It depends on what you want to do.
Okay. Because, and again, I go back to TV shows and movies and stuff like that. It's like, I have to go to Harvard Law if I want to get this job. I think
if you want a high-end job in like New York or LA working for like a huge massive corporate company, then your degree from Harvard, Yale, Notre Dame, all of that is going to put your foot in the door. You almost probably required to have that.
Okay, you're coming in really good now. Okay. That sounds good. I just wanted you to know where it's at. So okay, that makes sense. I was just curious. Because for us, like I said, they're just going to look, does he have a 4-year degree? Oh, he does. That's good. Can be a cop. So luckily where I work, you don't have to have a 4-year degree, which I think is smart. I don't think you should have to have a 4-year degree to do this job. Because like I said, I think you should be 25 or older. What do you think about that? You think you should be 25 or older to be a cop?
I don't know.
I never thought about that, actually.
I think you should be. That's just a personal opinion. I can tell you right now, me at 21 would have told you, I'm ready. I can do that job and I should be allowed to do it. But I can tell you now, me at 38, I was full of shit. And there's no way I was mentally ready to be a cop at 21 years old. Yeah. That's me. But most of the guys that I've worked with that are that age, they got lucky, They got lucky because I just don't know. I don't know if we're ready yet.
I've met some younger cops that were pretty impressive, actually.
Yep. I don't disagree. I'm just saying in general.
I don't know. I think if you can join the military at 17 or 18, I think being a cop was it 21, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, being a cop at 21, I don't know. I've given a lot of thought, though.
Yeah. But I will make this argument as a military member. you don't have a choice on how you're going to behave and what you're going to do and all that stuff. You are taken, from mama's tit to the military, and they're teaching you and telling you what you're going to do that day, how you're going to do it, where you're going to go, all of that.
Still very structured.
It's very structured. And it's a transitional phase of going from living at home. Some people, joined later. I joined later, but living at home to being there, and now they're being taught how to do their bills. Because if they don't, now they're subject to the UCMJ. It's different. Like, you can get in trouble for things that us as civilians can't get in trouble for. You don't pay your bills, no big deal. You just have to worry about creditors and all that. You don't pay your bills and your chain of command gets a hold of you. Now they're writing articles on you. So it's crazy. Like, it's different. So for me, I think it forces you to mature. Where as a police officer, you went from, just depends on your experiences, obviously. And I'm just talking in general terms, but it is very common from what I've seen for younger officers to get in trouble more often or be they're a much higher risk for getting in trouble compared to that 25-year-old and older person. And like you said, there are some sharp young guys. I'll name really drop out on the show, like Aaron Garcia. He was an Explorer, which is a program like from high school, learning how to do police stuff. And a good Explorer programs really teach you how to do. You're at an actual police academy learning real police stuff. So it's a really good thing. Rovell is another guy. I don't know if you guys have ever seen him through the course of your work, but another sharp cat. I mean, just knew his stuff inside and out. And young guy, but like you said, squared away in a very good maturity. Now, Aaron's maturity level, great at work, but his personal life, I hope he sees this. I just want to bust his balls. But personal life, he's a wreck. So, but yeah, that's just kind of a...
I actually never even thought about that.
Yeah, just a thought I had, That'll piss some people off, I'm sure. But that's okay. Free thought. Okay. Let's get into the police side of things, because I'm a cop. So, and I have to deal with y'all all the time. And I can tell you that prosecutors piss me off sometimes. And it's not usually the ones in the courtroom. It's whoever. Okay, so I'm going to back this up. I have a case. Let's say I'm a detective, okay? Which I am a detective. And I file a case. I'm like, you know what? This is it. I got it all together. Put it in a nice little package the best I can, and I send it off to y'all. Where does it go from there? What's the process like?
You want to take that one?
Sure. I think it'll go to some kind of intake. Whether, depending on the case, you may it's some person will review it in intake.
Is it a prosecutor that's reviewing it?
Yes.
What is that person?
Yes, it's another district attorney.
Okay.
And they're looking at the reports, and you're looking at whatever case that you filed, whatever the law is. They're looking at the elements, and they're doing what's called the prosing. They're starting it out. That's the first process, right? We're getting we're starting the language of what will eventually be an indictment. So they're looking at the prosing. They're trying to match the law, and then you're looking at here's what we have to prove. Now, what you gave us, can we prove that?
Right. Is the package I put together complete?
Yeah. Is it?
It may be complete to me.
Is what you gave me going to allow me to prove all of those things that I just put in the indictment?
Okay.
And then, and it's real, from my understanding, like I've never done intake in anything that I've so far, but I think it's kind of, I think at that point, kind of real basic. Like this is what we have. We can meet the elements with what we have, and then it proceeds on to grand jury, to another attorney.
Okay. And for those that don't know what grand jury is versus a normal jury.
So grand jury are citizens that they're chosen just like you see on like someone who comes in for a jury trial. They come in and it's 12 individuals, 12 citizens that come in and they serve. We usually have 2 grand juries. Most counties, bigger counties, has 2, maybe 3 running at a time. They come in so many days a week. They listen to the evidence is presented. They're given all the information, and they decide Because when someone is arrested, they're just arrested, right? They haven't been formally charged. So the grand jury is deciding whether there's enough probable cause and if they should formally charge someone. So a grand jury can do a couple different things. They can decide to formally charge someone, and that will result in they'll choose to what's called true billet, and that will result in what's called an indictment. And that is the piece of paper that formally brings you into a district court. So the district court now has jurisdiction over you. You have been formally charged, and then, or they can do what's called a no bill, and that means that the case just stops where it is.
Okay.
And that is entirely the grand jury's decision. It's in the code. It's secret. So we're not in the room when they talk about those things. We cannot ask them any questions about that. We cannot ask why they decided what they did. We just have to accept that decision and move on with it.
Okay, so say somebody's no billed, can that be brought back if new information is brought to light?
Yes.
Okay.
It can be.
Okay, because there's some hang up with some people. They're like, why not just use a regular jury? So what's the cons to it? I mean, what is the hang up some people have? From my understanding, I think the argument that I've heard before is that they're only hearing from the prosecutor. And is that correct? They're not hearing from the defense or anything like that?
Generally speaking, yes. So the grand jury part of it is for felonies only. So
Okay.
misdemeanors just go straight to a misdemeanor docket once those get filed. But grand jury is just for felonies, and for the most part, it's just the prosecutor talking to the 12 grand jurors about the facts of the case. Witnesses can get called. Defendants can testify at the grand jury. Depending on the county, maybe there are different rules about what defense attorneys can and can't do, whether they can put together a packet or, present affidavits of different witnesses. It just depends.
Okay. So glad we got that cleared up. So with the grand jury, no bills can be brought back if new information is brought to light. So that's never permanently squashed as long as new evidence.
It's got to be within the statute of limitations.
Yeah. Oh, and within the statute.
And it's got to be new information, something that wasn't had before.
Correct. Okay. So here's some of the things you and I have talked about this at length before, and it's kind of one of the things I wanted to bring you on for. There's no standardized training for detectives. Mm-hmm. When you come in as a detective, you're taught by whoever else is a detective prior to you getting there. Now, you could get a lazy guy. You could get a really motivated guy. You could get a really motivated guy that doesn't know shit. You know what I mean? So you get all sorts of different people teaching. Some teach you a lot of good things. Some don't teach you some good things. So like I said, there's no standardization. So there's things that we can do as detectives that can get y'all in a lot of trouble. And I don't think it's intentional by any means, but that's some of the stuff that I want to bring to the light. Like, if I had body cam footage and I look at it and I was like, oh, it's only 15 seconds. It was an accidental turn on. They don't need that one. They can get y'all in trouble, like serious trouble, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. What did you call that before? It's called something, right?
Well, it's under 3914. It's Article 3914 of the Code of Criminal Procedure. It requires us to turn over. Basically, if you have it, I have it.
Right.
And it doesn't matter if I've never seen it. That doesn't matter.
You might not even know it exists.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, I don't know it exists, but the thing is, you know it exists.
Right.
And because you know, under the law, I know, and because I know, I have to turn it over. And if I don't turn it over, someone could lose their bar card. Right.
So this is this show. I want to educate the public, but this one is specifically to police guys. If you're out there, you put all this work into a case. Detectives, I know you put, if you're giving it to the prosecutor, you want it to go the distance. Don't screw your prosecutor over by neglecting something that small. Now, I was honest with you. I was like, I didn't know that. Mm-hmm. Now, I have never intentionally, that I know of, missed a piece of evidence. Now, there may have been something that wasn't labeled and I didn't realize it was a part, but that's a different grounds. That wasn't me knowing that it exists. That was me figuring it out later. Oh, and then It's just as simple as saying, hey, I found this. I'm sending it to you now. That happens. I get that. But guys, don't ever think you're just doing them a favor of saying, well, this is inconsequential. It has nothing to do with anything. It's 15 seconds of the back of my coat with no sound. That doesn't matter. Get it to the prosecutor. So I want detectives to understand that, because I didn't understand the severity that you guys could lose your bar card. So that's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, it is. And I think part of the reason is that is the law, is because you don't necessarily always know what's important at the beginning of a case. Something that might seem insignificant at the time you file it might end up being really important on the back end, and you just don't know. And you want to make sure that the defense attorney has access to everything so that they can properly defend their client.
Right. Like a parking ticket. I think that got Jeffrey Dahmer. I think that's the one that he got.
That or Ted Bundy.
Maybe it was Ted Bundy. It was one of the serial killers.
Yeah.
It was a parking ticket. So may seem small, but you never know.
You never know.
So yeah. Okay. So that was one thing. What else do I got here? Okay. So courtroom prep. Okay. Very rarely, I rarely get called to court, and I'm either gonna chalk that up to I write really awesome reports or I write really bad reports. So one, what is your discretion level, and how important is that to the system?
What do you mean discretion level?
You guys, I file a case. You guys look at it and you say, no, this isn't worth filing, or yes, this is worth filing, or do you have to file it? Like, what is your discretion?
Well, the discretion is yours.
I know I have discretion, and I know I'm part of the keeping the CJ system flowing. Yeah. I get that, and I think it's very important. But what level do you guys have once I've filed something? Do you have anything? Do you have any discretion on, like, nope?
Well, I think it depends on what office you work for, right? I think every office has a different policy. I'm sure, but I think for the most part at that level, it's just kind of whether what you filed meets the elements of a criminal offense or not.
Okay.
And so I guess reasonable minds can sometimes differ about whether we've met all of the elements or not. But for the most part, I don't think it's close. I think it's a kind of a rare circumstance.
Okay.
When it's really kind of like a tough one, like you're talking about. And then I think reasonable minds can differ about that sometimes.
Okay.
I think the only time that I've ever gotten a case that I got rid of is like I've had them filed outside the statute of limitations.
Oh yeah.
And at that point, there's nothing I can do about it. But like I talked about, that's the kind of the process you're going through. Like intake, you're finding out, do we meet, because I mean, in the end, it's your decision. I mean, I can't tell you whether you have probable cause as far as like that's something that you have to decide.
Yeah. And
then if you send it, then intake is and then it goes to the grand jury, right? Yeah. And then and I think that's a part of it too. It's going, a lot of eyes are touching this, right? And I know that, officers are overburdened with cases as well. And that's why, like, hopefully in grand jury, or even if we miss it in grand jury, someone comes after and is like, hey, the offense report says there's 5 body cams and I have 2 of them. So can you find out where those are? Yeah. And then I've had people tell me like, well, I mean, I don't know. They're not in this place that they're supposed to be. And I was like, okay, well, can you reach out to the officers and find out? Because what's going to happen, and maybe, and this is what I don't think maybe some, because, I had a detective one time tell me, he's like, we're looking down the road, right? I'm looking at a trial and what's going to happen. And I'm thinking about what's going to happen to you on the stand. Yeah. Right. And so, that defense attorney is going to, let's just say the body cam malfunctioned, because we all know that happens. Like they don't work. You think it's on, the audio's off. A million things happen because it's technology, and technology hates us. So, you get down the road and, you have that defense attorney, well, where's the body cam? Like you have a body cam. It's issued to you. It was on you, right? My client says this XYZ happens, but your body cam just disappeared. Where is it? Yeah. And so when I ask them, like, hey, if we don't have this, just give me a supplement. Tell me what happened. Like it malfunctioned or whatever. And in my mind, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking of how can I save this down the road? Like how can I account? Because like if you have something on paper that we have XYZ and that doesn't match up with what you've given us, that's going to be a problem. And they're going to, and I say that it's not a problem, but you have someone that's going to make a mountain out of a molehill for that. And it's not what it is. It's something as simple as, I went to the bathroom, turned it off and forgot to turn it back on.
Right. Yeah.
So it's usually something really simple, and that's fine. Just give me a supplement that says that, and we are good to go.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah, so, I know a lot of officers they've got a template that they'll use for their report writing. And it's, especially if they work on a specialized team, because it's always the same officers with them. So it's like Officer Snuffy, Officer Bob, Officer Smith, all have their Axon body cameras, all were on and operational. My vehicle camera was on and operating, and it's just there. And then they go through, they do the report, and they forget to go up and say, oh, Smith wasn't here today. They forget to take him out. So on the report, it says there's 3 cameras going, and then you get there and you're like, no, I've only got 2. So what's the deal? So that's another thing for detectives or officers to know is like, it's not too late. Like, you can fix it. Just do a supplement. Add that to the system. It's all about transparency, right? We're not trying to hide the ball. We're not trying to hide it from anybody. We're not trying to, because it's our job to do justice and do the right thing. And to do that, you need all of the information. And because, you're dealing with someone's liberty, right? Right.
There's a reason why it's beyond a reasonable doubt. And so we want to make sure that all rights are protected, including that person that's accused of something, because they're innocent till proven guilty, right? And that is our job, to look at it. And if there's an offense, then we prove it. But to do that, it's only fair, because essentially that's what it is. It's fair. Like, we want to make it an even playing field. I'm not trying to railroad anyone. That's not what we're trying to do. But to do that, like, we need all of the information, just so, I had a Dolphin of that same judge told me, she's like, in Texas, it's not like, go back to Law and Order, where it's what's that, reciprocal? What's the word I'm looking at? Reciprocal DMA, like DME.
Reciprocal discovery.
Yeah. So, like, I think in New York, the defense has to give everything to the state, and vice versa. Well, that's not the case here, right? If we give everything to the state of Texas, we'll give everything to defense attorneys, and they don't have to give us anything at all, right?
Oh.
So we're not, what does that say? We're doing the accusing, so we do the proven, or something like that. So they don't have to give us anything. They don't have to tell us what their defense is. They have to tell us nothing. I mean, now there are exceptions like insanity and things like that, but for the most part, they don't have to do anything, right? So because of that, we don't know what their defense is, right? So you don't know what's important to them.
No shit.
You don't know, like, what's...
Is that you?
Sorry, yeah.
That's my bad.
Sorry. So you don't know what is exculpatory or whatever, like what would be helpful to them. And so that's why it's important.
So you guys got to work harder here.
So we just give them everything so that they can form the best defense possible.
So Texas prosecutors are badasses compared to New York.
So,
dang, they get to cheat though up there. That's like cheating. Not cheating, but
I guess they have more information than we do.
Yeah. That's not fair.
So, but that's it. It's just transparency. Like, we want to make sure that everybody knows everything.
Have you ever, or does this happen? And while you were talking, it was something that came to mind. Have you ever heard a defense attorney's defense and like he's proving, like showing you proof that this person didn't, were you like, okay, that maybe his guy's innocent? Like, how does that work? If you think that they have the right evidence to prove their guy's innocent.
Like, well,
that happens before the trial starts, obviously.
Right. Cause you, like I said, that goes back to, I think, Tarrant County Special, because there's a lot of good relationships with people. But like it's our job to do the right thing. And I don't want to put an innocent person, if you shouldn't be accused of that, or you didn't do that charge, then I've dismissed cases that's just how it happened. Like,
that's what I meant. Like, you guys can just say, you know what, you're right. This ain't going any farther. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, it's the right thing. If it's the right thing, it's the right thing. Like,
gotcha.
If you didn't do it and we have the evidence to back that up, then case is going to go away.
Okay. What else do we got? So I talked about prosecutor discretion. You answered that, I think, fairly. As far as, so one of the stigmas is that it's always police and prosecutors versus the defense. Police and prosecutors versus defense. I don't think that's true. I don't think it's you and me versus the defense. What's your impression of that?
Well, I mean, it is the state versus someone, versus a named individual. I mean, the goal is just to figure out what happened,
right? But
and to see whether the conduct meets the elements of a criminal offense.
I've had prosecutors, especially when I first started as a detective, like call me out like right away, like, no, you're missing this, and this. Like, there was no, oh, we're on the same team. He knows what he's doing, da 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 da. That's what I'm getting at. It was them treating every case like it was new and like there was no, like my partners at work. If one of them give a report and they're like, well, Levine, what did you do? Oh, I did this, this, and this. Okay, I'll put it in the report. And I trusted them to put it in the report. Now, it's my job to overlook it, but it's not the same when I'm filing a case with a prosecutor. Prosecutor's looking over it like it's the only case they've got to deal with. And as soon as they find something that doesn't mesh, they throw it back to me. Like, no, you need to fix this. And so I try to tell people, like, in my opinion, if we were so in cahoots with each other, like some people think like we're trying to team up against everybody. I don't see it that way. I don't see us trying to team up on people just to try to get them in jail. It's, you guys really do your job to make sure if you're going to go after this person that the elements are there. And I was really impressed by that as far as, like I said, being a detective. I'm sitting there looking at him like, damn it. And I just get mad at myself, but some people don't get that, where they're like, why don't they just take it? It's obvious this guy's the one that did it. And you guys hold him accountable. So is that making sense? Am I coming across? Yeah,
I mean, I think the goal is, like, I think what you're trying to say is that if we were in cahoots, we would just take everything that, every prosecutor's office in the country would just take whatever case the cops gave them, which is not what happens.
Not at all.
Sometimes it's a matter of, like, we just don't think we can meet the elements with the facts that we have, and maybe a case gets rejected. But I think more oftentimes a case gets returned for further investigation to, like, make this better, or, like, there are a couple things that just need to be done to kind of put a bow on it.
Yes, I agree.
I think that, like I said, that goes back to, like, we're looking at trial, and I don't think that's kind of, we're in two different mindsets. So I just may need a little extra help. Mm-hmm. To get where I need to get. Like, I mean, because if this person is done what you're alleging or whatever, I mean, kind of like help me help you type situation, right? Like, I want to get here, but the bottom line is, it isn't like we don't have a slew of investigators that can do this for us, right? We have most DA's offices have maybe one per court pod, and that's if you're lucky.
Okay, so explain that, what you're talking about.
So, like, there are most DA's offices, I know in Texas, I don't know about other places, but you will have, like, investigators, and they're mostly retired officers who have retired, and they become investigators for the DA's office, and they'll help us find witnesses for trial, run criminal histories, just stuff like that. But, you have there's, some people may have anywhere from, 4 to 7 prosecutors on one, like, court team. You've got one investigator.
Yeah.
And, one investigator and let's just say 4, 8, 1,500 cases.
Ooh.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, what it really comes down to is, like, I need the detective. Like, I need the detective and I need the patrol officer, and I need their help, because I literally cannot do it without them. Because I don't have... that my investigator can help me with some stuff, but he can't help me with everything.
I gotcha.
And I think sometimes too, it's just as easy as having just a second pair of eyes. Cause like I said, we're kind of on different levels as far as, like, what we're aiming towards. So, for example, if you're at an offense or whatever, like, we all know, especially with COVID, trials are just way down the road, right? Like, you may go 2-3 years without your trial. If there is one, and so maybe there were witnesses or whatever, and that's why those statements or those recordings are important, because, like, 3 years down the road, you just, like I said, I guess the bottom line is, like, we all need help, and so we get that. Like, y'all are just a huge part of that. Like,
okay. Miranda warnings. So, what would be? I have a feeling I know your answer on this, but Miranda warnings, explain them. explain their importance, when they should be read, when they shouldn't be read, all that good stuff.
Well, I think the biggest thing for Texas peace officers to know is that the kind of law and order warnings you hear are insufficient for our purposes. So, you specifically need the language in 3822 of the code. And I think that, there are different agencies that have their own card that lists that, so you can just read it. And I think where we see patrol officers get into trouble is when they've arrested someone and then they want to take a statement from them, they'll Google it. They'll Google
the Miranda warning?
They'll Google the Miranda warnings, and that might be sufficient for federal cases, or in other states that's sufficient. But in Texas, it's insufficient, and mostly because at the very end of the Texas warnings, it says, and you have a right to end this interview at any time. And so It's kind of the judge, when they're reviewing, the defense attorney would file a motion to suppress to keep out that statement from the suspect. And the judge is going to be reading the code book and seeing if all of those warnings are there. And there's a substantial compliance doctrine. It doesn't have to literally be 100% verbatim from 3822, but it does need to be pretty close.
Okay.
You're better off just reading it off of 3822.
Yeah. Okay. Where I work, the forms are printed off and it's directly from there. Do you prefer, now I've been told many different things, do you prefer that a suspect sit there and initial each sentence once it's read and the detective or officer sit there?
I don't think I have a preference for it. I mean, just follow what, I would just
Do they have to sign it saying that they understand it, or you just need it verbal?
I don't think there's any written requirement that I'm aware of.
I don't think so. I think there just has to be,
it needs to be on the recording.
Right. And they need to, they need to understand it.
Right.
You need to.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, you understand what you're,
right.
I've seen some people that, I've seen some officers that have the individual read it to them.
Yeah.
Like, read this for me.
Okay.
And, did you understand everything that you read?
Yep.
And they'll say, yes, no, whatever. And then they'll say, yeah, I understood. I'm like, great. Well,
Okay.
What were you doing Monday, July 3rd of 1972 or whatever?
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I typically provide a copy for them, my copy. I'll say, follow along with me. Do you read and write in English? Yes, I do. Okay, cool. And then I'll just start reading, and then I'll stop about halfway through. You following everything? Make sense so far? Yep. Okay. Now I'll keep going. With your rights in mind, you wish to talk to me? Yep. You do? Okay, cool.
I think just the important part is they understand.
Okay.
They need to understand, and the warnings need to be on the recording.
Yeah.
So that, in other states, what they'll do is they'll Mirandize them. They'll walk into the interview room. They'll give them the law and order warnings that are good in that state, and then they'll say, okay, well, I'm going to start the recording now. In Texas, it all needs to be on the recording.
On the record, I got you.
Yeah, and it's just spelled out there in 3822.
Okay. A lot of citizens, they think as soon as the cuffs get brought out, no, you didn't read my Miranda warning. Mm-hmm. Okay, so
thank you, law and order.
Yes. Okay, so I'm a cop. I'm not to be trusted with this advice. So you being prosecutors, true or false that the Miranda warning is required once they're under custodial arrest?
False. It's the only thing that Miranda has to do with is custodial interrogation. So it doesn't invalidate an arrest. If someone's arrested and never read Miranda, that's totally fine. But the only thing that it'll do is if you don't Mirandize someone or don't Mirandize them properly, and then you're conducting a custodial interrogation, so they've got to be in custody.
Right.
It's also got to be interrogation. So if they're just making spontaneous statements, generally speaking, those statements are admissible. Subject to some other requirements. But if it's a custodial interview and they've not been Mirandized, then that statement's not coming in. But it has nothing to do with whether an arrest is valid or not. Okay.
So one of the things I like to point out is when I'm out dealing with the domestic, I have to get your story. We'll say you two are what I'm out for. And I got to get your story and I got to get your story. And then I have to take that information and I have to come up with some sort of yes, an offense, and it was you, right? I decide you're under arrest. I never had to read the Miranda warning because even though I asked you questions, I didn't know who was at fault, none of that. I was just doing an investigation, not a custodial interrogation. So that's the difference. And that's one of the things I'm trying to help people that aren't in law enforcement or not associated with the court system or anything like that understand, is that that Miranda warning isn't until after you're placed under arrest. If they want to continue to ask you questions about that incident, now they have to Mirandize you. So I try to tell new officers, like, look, you had him in cuffs and then you got him in the car, and then as you're driving, you're like, man, why'd you hit your wife? That you can't
do that.
You can't do that.
Yeah.
And I think it's important too that it's custodial interrogation. So, I mean, you may not have. You could, back to your scenario, you're out asking everybody questions, but that changes if you go put him in cuffs and stick him in your car. You're not arresting him yet.
Right, but he's been detained, which
Right.
is still custodial.
Yes. So that's not. It's not just arrest. It's like detain.
Yes.
I mean, if they're not
Free to go.
leave,
Yes.
it might be
So
a little-
people, citizens, if you hear this and the officer tells you, no, you are not free to go, you are detained.
Yes.
So just keep that in mind. I want you guys to know your rights.
I've had less fights about whether someone's under arrest or not, and more fights about whether the warnings given were sufficient.
Yeah.
That 38, that last one on 3822.
Gotta get you.
Read
Bite
that.
you in the butt every
Read that
time.
shit.
All the way to the end. Open.
Yeah.
I told him, I said, just open the code book and just Xerox that thing.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
Just read verbatim out of it.
Yep.
And you will, and I guess that's something that's so easy. Like, you will never, ever have a problem with that if you just read it out of the code book.
I always end up like, I can read all day long. I can sit here and read this piece of paper. But as soon as I know I'm on record and I have to get this right, my finger comes out and I'm like going along, and then I'll mess up a word and I'm like, I'm going to reread that sentence, okay? And I screw it up, and I'm just waiting one day for a prosecutor to be like, I watched your Miranda video. What happened? What happened, bud?
That happens a lot. I think people, you want to, as a cop, you want to get the bad guy, right?
Yeah.
Like, if someone's done something terrible, you want to hold them accountable for it.
Yeah.
And so there's kind of a nervousness that comes with that. Like, you're finally there. You've got this guy.
Put all this work into it.
Put all this work into it. And you're here getting this statement. You kind of get so nervous that you trip over the words.
Yep.
Yeah. So I don't think
absolutely.
there's anything wrong with,
As soon as I get it done, I'm like, I'm back into me mode. Like, I can talk to suspects all day long. I can talk to witnesses.
Anybody all day long.
Yeah, but you get me, like, you get that formal part, and I'm just like, I do. I still, this day, I've been doing it for 2 years now, and I still get kind of like, don't screw this part up.
Yeah.
Because I'm just waiting for my words to come across the camera wrong, and then I get into the courtroom, which still hasn't happened. But, yeah. Okay, so property crimes. Okay? This is a question I have for y'all. I have been led to believe that there's a hierarchy of importance for cases. Felonies, violent felonies being the top, I would assume anyway. And then everything after that is kind of like, you better have all, that case better be wrapped up with a bow, all nice and pretty. Otherwise, it's just not going to get the same effort that those violent felonies get. What's the word on the street with that?
I think it just depends on the case. I mean, just from my perspective, I work every case like they're important, because you talk about just a property crime, right? Well, if you've drained someone's life savings, no one's injured, no one died, but that's really important to those people involved, that family, right? Mm-hmm. And so, you can say it's just a property crime, but to them it's really important, or like specifically within the context of taking advantage of the elderly, right? And I know that there are different offices across the country that have units specifically for that now, because there's a lot of it. And, if you drain someone's 75 years old and that defendant preys on them and gets them to give up their life savings, and they're destitute now, I mean, that is really, really important to those people.
Right.
And so, I don't know. I'd like to think we all work our cases like they're all important. That's what I try to do.
Okay. So, and this is where I was going with this. I did a whole attorney thing right here. All too often, I keep seeing the same damn people I've put in jail for multiple felony property crime things. And it gets frustrating as a cop. I'm like, how is he out within a year? And I know that isn't your side of the house. You guys don't have anything to do with the jail's holding them and the judge's final sentence and all that stuff. What control do you have over the charges to begin with? Like, let's say I put out there, third-degree felony, EOC, engaging in organized crime, something like that. I push it. You guys are like, yes, this is a good case. Does it stay that third-degree felony with you? Or do you guys bump it down? Do you guys have that power?
Yeah, it just depends. I mean, if you file something as one way, I mean, I've had officers before file a case as one thing, but they just clicked the wrong crime. Maybe it was 1 degree too lower or 1 degree too high.
Right.
1 degree too low or 1 degree too high, and then you can read it, determine what like if we're talking about a monetary loss, maybe we didn't fall within the higher range, so it's actually within the lower range or something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
And then the grand jury can also decide what charges to do.
Yeah, I've had a grand jury actually add a charge before.
Okay. Because that's part of the unknown and frustration for my side of the house is I'm like, all right, I know, for instance, and again, I know this doesn't have anything to do. A judge gave a really high bond on a person that took advantage of an elderly and disabled person. It was a combo. They did a home invasion, robbed the person. And I went to town as a detective. I mean, I went as deep into this thing as I could find. I found this guy's criminal history, and it turned out he'd been victimizing the same guy for years. And it just kept getting missed. It kept getting misdiagnosed. Kept, theft from person or criminal mischief or something minor, little things. So I showed all this history. I'm like, look, it's not just that he robbed this guy. It's like he's extorting him in a sense. So got a great judge. Judge is like, yeah, this needs to go up. So $250,000 bond, largest bond I've ever got to this date on property crime. So we get the guy within a day of the warrant. Awesome. Got him off the street. Bond bumped down by half. Now, it didn't matter. He wasn't getting out. He couldn't afford that. But I know this isn't your house, but you're involved with it. How does that happen? What is part of that process that makes that? How is that allowed?
Well, bond is that goes back to the concept you're innocent to proven guilty, right?
Okay.
Right. So you're doing your investigation and you have what you believe is someone who's committed an offense, but under the law, like until a 12 person or a judge declares that individual guilty, they are innocent.
Right.
Right. And so, except for, at least in Texas, except for a few exceptions, like bond it's constitutional, right? Everyone is entitled to a bond.
Yeah.
And so what that bond is also has some factors, you say, and so it can't be it can't be so high as to basically be a punishment.
Okay.
You make sense?
Yeah,
So, I'm not like, I know you did this, so here's $150,000. You can just sit. You know what I'm saying? You can't, because they haven't been found guilty of anything.
Gotcha.
Right? They've not, like, a jury or a judge has not found them guilty.
Right. But all the prior history and stuff it's a factor in how they decide the bond and whatnot, correct?
So was it criminal history?
Yeah, there's a non-exhaustive list of factors
in the code.
Criminal history, nature and level of the offense, ties to the community
safety,
work history, victim safety.
Okay.
There's a whole lot of things. So, when bonds get reduced, once a case gets filed, the defense attorney can choose to file a motion to reduce bond, and then there's a hearing on that. So those are the kind of things that the defense attorney can point the judge's attention to, and then the judge can make a decision on what to do with the bond.
Okay.
Because that's entirely a judge's decision.
So it takes a judge to raise or lower a bond.
Yeah. And okay. And back to kind of where we were going in the first place. I've had prosecutors realize that my offense could be bumped up. Like, hey, I see you put a state jail felony, but actually he qualifies for a third-degree felony. So we're going to go with that charge. And so that's something that y'all have the power. That's a discretionary thing that you have the power to do, correct?
Does it meet the elements?
If it meets the elements, right.
Right. So, there's been times where, there might have been an assault, family violence. That's also a robbery. right? And
yeah.
so maybe only the assault family violence came in, and the detective just like he saw the whatever the third degree, whatever's like we're good. Someone else gets in there and goes, oh, this is a robbery too, so we'll just that might be added to it as well. So I mean, that goes back to like you have several different eyes, right? And so and so yeah, things might be added that also fit the fact pattern.
Okay.
But it's not like I don't to be discretionary. I mean, I think you try to.
You just see whether the conduct meets the elements of the criminal offense and what those offenses are.
Yeah. Now, with that being said, every prosecutor is going to have a different experience. So he may see something that I completely missed because, maybe I haven't dealt with it as much, or I was like, and I've had different moments. I was like, oh man, I didn't even think about that, or whatever, because maybe it's not something that I deal with. Maybe someone else deals with it more often than I do.
Yeah.
So it could be nothing about discretionary, but just maybe you missed it. Right.
Okay.
Or like I didn't know. Like I didn't even think about it that way or something like that.
Yeah.
So
okay. And I completely get that because as a detective, I've looked at my early work and I've gone back or I've dealt with the same guy and I'll try to refresh my memory. I'm like, all right, what did I deal with this dude with? And I'll look at my old cases and see what I wrote. And I'm like, oh my God, I had this and this and I didn't even realize I had it. And live and learn.
You live exactly. Like you said, you practice. Like you get, and then you'll come into different situations. You're like, okay, yeah, I got that. Okay, and that's just in life, I think, in general.
For sure. And then the grand jury can pick and choose. Yeah. It's their call on what goes forward. So
really, let's say third degree felony for something. You're like, all right, third degree felony. We're going to this. They can look at that and go, no, we're going to drop that down.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it still needs to. I mean, it has to.
The judge has no say over that.
No, they do it. It's up to the grand jury. Yeah,
I've gone in with a felony and come out with a misdemeanor before.
Really, man, and that's
I can't go. Well, what happened? Like you can't even go ask them.
Huh? That's weird. That seems wrong in some way. But so does that happen often?
I don't know. I don't know that I'd say often or not. It wouldn't surprise me. If someone told me that the grand jury reduced a charge or changed a charge or did something like that, I wouldn't stop and think, oh, that's unusual. Is
there any prep work that's given to grand juries as far as like, here's the offense, here's the punishment, here's the guy's criminal? I mean, I'm trying to figure out, are they prepped in your favor? Like what you think belongs? Is it no?
No.
It's just you guys present, like they say they get true billed, you guys present your case, the defense presents theirs, they find them guilty. There's no more talking to them after that.
Well, it's important to say we're not doing guilt instance right now. That's like we're jumping. So grand jury is not that, right? You're not deciding whether someone's guilty or innocent. You're deciding whether they are deciding whether to formally charge them.
Okay,
that's it. So, someone's charged with a third degree theft, right? And so you go in and you present the facts and you present the evidence.
Okay.
And and here's the law. Here's the facts. See ya. And you walk out. And then, they decide. They can decide.
Oh, so they're changing the charges then, possibly.
Well, I mean, I don't think so. I mean, it's just, here's what it is. And, I mean, they may have, I guess you could get questions about the law. I mean, I've had, people ask questions because, they are civilians or whatnot. But, it's really just their decision whether to formally charge someone. Like, I mean, I've had it happen where, like I said, here's an assault with a prior, and then I come back out and here's your misdemeanor, and I'm like, great, thank you. And then you just go, and then you can't. Like I said, it's all secret. So what they decide, their deliberations, all of that is, it's just their thing.
Really,
and we can't ask anything about it.
Is there any I guess there's no way to learn from it then?
No.
Really?
I don't really think so either. No. I mean, they're all just kind of, you can look back on, I guess, your own experience doing that and try to learn from it, I guess. But, sometimes they just make a decision you disagree with and you just deal with it.
All across the country. I mean, because I think most states have, the grand jury. I know they're all different. Like I know Louisiana, it's like my uncle was on one, and he said, they in a very small town, and so like they call them up they have 6-month terms, so like they'd call them up on a day and be like, hey, come in. We've got a couple cases for you. And you're just like, I was like, so he'd be on it for 6 months and maybe went up there 3 times. And I was like, wait, what?
Wow. That'd be interesting.
I mean, I think that, and I don't know this for a fact because I don't, but I think probably most states have some variation of the grand jury. I just don't think it's maybe used the same everywhere as far as like what goes to it.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure. Like here in Texas, every felony is going in front of the grand jury, every one of them. So, but some states that may not be the case. Maybe they only get capitals, or maybe they only get murder. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
in Texas, you have the right to a jury trial, correct?
yes.
Okay, so is that even on a traffic ticket?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. This was a question for one of my wife's history classes, or government classes.
They have them.
And so that's what I was wondering. You can get a jury trial on anything that involves the court system, right?
As far as I know.
Anything criminal. Anything criminal, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I thought. So that's cool. Are we the only state that does that still?
I don't know.
I think we're one of the only.
I don't know.
That does that.
I know we're one of the few states that jury can assess punishment.
Oh, okay. Really? Nice.
Most states, the judge does it.
But in Texas, the jury.
The defendant can choose.
Oh, I'm going with the judge every time.
They can choose to go. Well, here's the problem you have with that. Like, depending on what someone's criminal history is, they may only get probation from a jury. Like, so let's say you want probation. Well, there are certain offenses that can't get it from a judge.
Oh, okay.
If you want probation, you have to go to a jury. Only a jury can give it to you.
Okay.
So,
well, in most cases, in my experience, I would go with the judge.
So it's their choice.
It just depends.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's something that they decide with their attorney and what's best for them.
All right, let's turn gears a little bit. You work with police all the time because it's basically your bread and butter. What advice do y'all have for us? What type of things are we doing well? What type of things could we improve on? What would you like to see to help improve law enforcement?
I think something I've always said, I've talked about this before, and I don't think it's necessarily something law enforcement, but I think all in general is just more open lines of communication, right? So I think that it would be a great idea for maybe an officer when they're in training, go all the way through a trial. Come sit in there with us and look at, what from beginning to end.
Yeah.
All the way through. And so, again, I think it's just, for me, and like I said, we've talked about this, it's just communication and learning from one another and learning that, when I'm really not asking this stuff to be a butthole, and I'm not asking it to make your life more difficult. I'm asking because I need it. Either I need it or the law requires it.
Yeah.
And so, I know y'all are busy, and I know, I've got several Texans probably gotten mad at me before, no doubt. But with that, so like more understanding, more communication, and that even goes to patrol. Because I had a detective tell me the other day, he's like, it's hard because patrols just, it's, like I said, different sites. They have their sights set on different things.
Yeah.
And I don't think that normal patrol officer's thinking about that, 2 years down the road, sitting on the stand, justifying why you did or did not pick up that cell phone.
Yeah. And I can tell you from my personal experience, like I remember being in patrol and being like, all right, I got to get this report done and I got to move on to the next.
Yeah.
Like that's the mindset. I got to get the report done and I got to move on to the next call. And
so that would just be my thing. Communication, just talk, more understanding, more not understanding where we're coming from, understand where y'all are coming from, and just being willing to bend both ways, and not to get upset, but just to just really just work together to do
so
what's right.
Officers out there, listen to what she said, see if you can get into a trial and go all the way through it. So have fun with it. Maybe do it as a training thing. Maybe get some TCO credits or something. I don't know.
Right. As I said in the academy, just go all the way through. Just see what it is from beginning. Because I've talked to so many patrol officers, they've never stepped foot in a courtroom before.
Yeah.
Never been in there.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's actually cool. You should come.
It's fun. I've had fun. Every one that I've had to go to, I've had a blast and get a little smile out of the jury, make the judge tell me, relax, but it's just the way that it turned out. I had a really dumb defense attorney on one of them, asking me questions that literally were in the next few seconds of the video, but he paused. He obviously didn't watch it. And he was asking, why did you tase my client? I'm like, I didn't tase your client. That was the other officer. Clearly, this is you in the video. Yeah, that's me. That's your arm right there, right? Which one are you pointing to, sir? And he walks up to the screen and he points. And I'm like, no, that's not my arm. That's the officer that has the taser. He's black. That's a black guy's arm. I can see. It's wearing short sleeves. And it just got quiet for a while. And that's when the jury started to laugh. And I looked over and smiled at him. And the judge saw me smiling at him. He told me to calm down. And I was like, all right. And then it just got quiet for a lot longer while he searched through some papers. And this isn't your arm. I'm like, nope. It was great. So
anything can happen at trial, I'll tell you that.
Oh, it was great. So that's another question I have. You finally make the big show. You get past in-doc or whatever you guys call it, where you're processing cases, or you're sitting. I'm sure you guys do some where you sit in the courtroom, but you're not actually partaking. You're learning as you go. Is that how that works? I'm trying to feel how you does your field training go to start, being one of those guys that's up there that you can't handle the truth,
You just start doing it. I mean,
you
just jump into it.
Yeah, I think I was in trial my first day, I think I was in trial my first day.
Yeah.
You're paired with someone who's done it before, and you just kind of
really.
Yeah. You're a misdemeanor, so the stakes were a lot lower than it.
You hope it's kind of like your field training, right? You're with someone who's done it and knows and is kind of guiding you through that. So you're learning how to prep and how to do officer meetings and how to get a hold of people. And so it's kind of like your field officer. You're just trying to learn from someone who's done it before.
Okay.
But you do get to watch other people.
Yeah.
That's I think the easiest way to figure out what you can and can't do, or what you should or shouldn't say, is to watch people who are really good at it. It's just kind of like anything else. You're watching experienced people do it, and then you can ask them questions like, why did you do this? Is there a reason you did that? And then you can kind of learn that way.
The best piece of advice I was ever given by a prosecutor is a defense attorney is not going to ask you a question he doesn't already know the answer to, or she. And
that's probably right.
That's probably right.
I mean, unless somebody thinks your arm's a black officer's arm and it's a white officer's arm. So, but once I was told that, rookie status, and I had wrote a terrible report and had to go to court on it. I think it was over a traffic ticket. It was something the guy was fighting, and he told me, he's like, look, they're never going to ask you a question they don't already know the answer to. Just keep that in mind. I said, oh, okay. And it just triggered, and I just kept that in mind the whole time. And if I didn't know, I didn't know.
I think that kind of bodes, that's probably a role for anybody in a courtroom.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. So, that's good to know. They don't just throw you out there in a murder trial.
No.
You got to get your feet wet a little bit.
You're doing your DWIs, possessions of marijuana, your Walmart thefts.
Why are DWIs so damn complicated?
They've gotten complicated, yeah.
What the hell? It's a Class B, and it is worse than any trial I've ever gone to. I mean, I've never worked a homicide or anything like that.
Good practice, though.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's why cops hate doing them. It's so much. Why is that? What's the deal?
It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is. This is your guys' world.
It's just the way it's progressed, with blood and, technology, right? I mean, it just goes back to that.
Hate it.
It's good practice, though.
Yeah.
You're working on something that's kind of tedious and complicated. That's a good practice run for other things.
Our DUI guys are amazing at the court stuff. The ones that stick with it. The ones that are specifically DUI, DWI, whatever you want to call it. It's different state to state. But they're really good with that stuff and talking on the stand and knowing all of their steps and stuff. I got lucky because when I'd work at DWI, it was on my clipboard. All the steps, all that stuff. I had one of those cheater clipboards. So, but those guys, they just have it memorized. Like you said, they're specialists. So
that's all they do.
Yeah. You got me started down DWIs. I was always wondering, why is it so damn complicated? You don't have to go through any other steps on a Class B like that.
That's just the way it is. I don't know.
Okay, so you baby step. You start out with your misdemeanors, and then is it all right, Jess, I think you're ready for the big leagues?
You hope so.
Does somebody choose you and is like, hey, I think you're ready for your first felony. Let's try
Well,
it.
it's just whenever you're promoted, like whenever that happens. So
Okay.
So that's different too, depending across the country, right? So there are some counties that have a county district attorney, and all they do is misdemeanors, and then they have a district office that all they do is felony. So they're completely separate. So the ones that do misdemeanor, that's all they do all the time.
Okay.
Right, and then they have the district, and then you have some offices that have them both. Misdemeanor felony, and it's just one, like you get promoted into felony.
Okay.
So I think it just depends on what kind of office you're at. Like you may be doing misdemeanors, and that's all you may be doing. You may never do anything else. And then, because I ran into or you could start out of law school going right to felony if that's what. Yeah,
that would be fun.
It just kind of depends on what office and where you work at in the state.
Okay, so you guys really get thrown to it. Yeah. So are you guys? Do you do felonies now?
Felony.
You're felony?
Yes, sir.
You do felony? So you're badasses. So you've, at least in this area, you've upped your game. Now you're doing felonies.
No, it's. I think the people that deserve a lot more credit, and I'm not just saying this, are the officers, right? Like you'll have to remember 10,000 things all the time, but like you're also out in the field and don't know who has a gun or who has a knife or things like that, and you're like we talked about, you're doing all this tedious work. It's hot. You're wearing Kevlar, Yeah. We don't have to do any of that, So, I think that
I won't disagree.
It's hard. I think it's really hard to be a patrol officer.
But I know how mentally draining life behind the books can be, and just through school, I can't imagine doing it for a career. And I don't care how well you know the laws, you're still going to double check, and you're still going to make sure you guys are doing so. The mental warfare y'all have to play, and then so. One of the classic things I remember in movies, and this is something I want to bring up. Is it true that, like, all right, let's say you're doing we'll say a homicide case, and I'm not saying that you guys do those, but homicide case, and you're going at it with the defense attorney, like you guys going back and forth, and then at the end of the trial, like you're like, all right, Frank, you want to go catch a beer? Like, does that happen? Are you guys still friends? Are you guys friends with defense people?
Yeah, for sure. I think that it might, depending on how long your trial is, maybe it might be a week before you have that beer. I think that maybe the defense attorney's sick of hearing your voice,
especially if you win.
Or not. Okay. You're with that person for 8 hours a day, listening to them talk. I had a defense attorney I tried 4 times in a row, and he stood up in jury selection and he said, this is our 4th one in a row. I've seen William more than my wife. And everyone laughed, and like neither of us did. We're still friends. He's a great guy, but it's just kind of like we had heard each other talk for 4 weeks straight. Yeah, it's just kind of like you did a break.
What is that like going against a friend?
Well, for me personally, it's when you're everybody has a job to do in the courtroom, right? And so the defense attorney's job is to zealously defend their client, right? And that is their job. And so you go in understanding that. You understand that's their job. This is my job. And, as long as everything, I think, stays above board, everybody, stays professional. And, I mean, I hate to say you don't take it personal, but you don't, because it's your job.
Yeah. That if anything ever interested me into trying to become an attorney, it's for that aspect alone. Just to go against a friend, and just especially prosecutors tend to win, I would think, more often than not.
I honestly don't know.
Don't know. I in my experience, y'all win a lot more than you lose. So it's because I put shit hot cases together. But when you win as a prosecutor and you go against a friend, the gloating would be because that's how we are as officers.
No, you can't do that. I don't. No one likes that guy.
No. As officers,
you don't spike the football. You just hand the ball to the ref. I just.
Who does that? Who did that?
I mean, I don't.
Who's the one that made that famous?
Spiking it?
Handing the football to the ref? I don't know.
Played for the Lions. That's the only reason I bring it up. Barry Sanders.
He made that famous? Okay.
Barry Sanders. Yep. Class act. Yeah. Celebrated with his team over on the sideline.
Wow.
Yeah. That's why the Lions are the best.
I think that would go over like a lead balloon if you tried to spike the football in someone's face.
Not in the courtroom, but I'm just saying afterwards, and be like,
general,
yeah. Well, I think what it also goes back to is like no matter what you're doing, whether you're doing a homicide or whether you're doing a theft, you're dealing with people's lives.
Yeah.
Right. So the defendant's family, the victim's family. So I mean, sometimes you think, I mean, you could go as far as say like there are no winners in anything.
Yeah.
Because that victim is still a victim. And
if you're gonna go on the serious cases, yeah.
I mean, but even if you think about it, even DWIs.
Well, that can be very devastating too. Yeah.
You know.
I think that's so true. I mean, there's one party that is really sad at the end of a felony. Yeah. It doesn't matter, know, unless we're talking about like a dope case.
Yeah.
I mean, there's going to be someone who is very, very sad. Their life is altered for forever, you know, and so it's hard to like, turn around and high five and you just don't.
Yeah, you wouldn't do that in front of the victim.
You wouldn't do that ever.
Yeah,
I mean,
but even if like that, even if that defendant has done something egregious, you have to think that he or she still has a family.
Yeah.
That, is, they may have kids or whatever that are just adversely like forever affected, forever changed. So like I don't think that, and I think that's part of the reason why you don't is because, it's life. It's people's lives, and going into it,
so
it's going to be heartbreaking for somebody.
I'm glad you brought up the victim side of it. How much contact do y'all have with the victims while stuff's going on, like serious trials, like felony stuff?
It just depends on the case, and it just depends on the case. Some victims want to get an update every week. Some victims are like, every time you call me, it is so sad, and it brings up something that I wish I could forget. And I've had victims tell me before, I would like just kind of the bare minimum updates. Like, I want you to update me, but it kind of rocks my world whenever I see, the caller ID, because I don't know whether you're calling to give me good news or bad news or whatever. And it just really stresses that person out. So
okay.
I think it just depends.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. I was curious about that. How much contact, cause I know like when I'm doing, filling out my stuff, filing with y'all, there's a little checkbox like victim wishes to be contacted or doesn't, whatever. So
I always tell them too, like, I mean, look, like here's my number. Call me if you want to update. Call me if you have questions. Mm-hmm. Call me if you need to know what. I'm here. Call me. Like, I may not answer the phone, but I'll call you back. So for me personally, like I call, but then I kind of put it in their court. I'll call if I have something to tell you. But if not, like, don't feel bad or don't hesitate to call me if you need something or want to know something. So I try to encourage that communication as much as they are comfortable with and how much they want to talk to me. And obviously, like, I'm going to call you if I need something. Mm-hmm. But then other than that, just, my phone's right there.
Is it common for victims to be involved in the trial itself, like being brought to the stand? Does that happen often? I mean, the only reason I'm asking that because I saw like the Dallas case where the female officer, where she had shot somebody she thought was in her apartment during that trial, like the victim's family and stuff like that. So I was just curious, is that a common thing for victims to be getting up on the stand? Or victims' family members if the victim passed away or something?
It just depends.
But that is something that is...
Yeah, it can happen.
That can happen. Yeah. So it's just based on whose call is that? I mean, does the victim have a say? Like,
are you talking about during a trial or after a trial or
both?
Well, during a trial, if the prosecutor's calling someone as a witness, it's for some purpose, right? Okay. To either meet one of the elements of the offense, or in punishment to talk about what type of person this guy is. This defendant, is this a good person? Is this a bad person? Is this a person who's always done the right thing and made a bad mistake on one day? Or is this a person who has kind of continually done the wrong thing over and over? And then after a trial, the victim, or depending on the case, the victim's family can give an allocution, which it doesn't affect sentencing at all, but it's kind of their opportunity to tell the defendant like how this affected them and their family. And
okay,
and that
well, you say it doesn't affect sentencing, but
it doesn't. It's already done. It's already a done deal.
Oh, okay.
So an allocution is something that a victim or family has a right to do, and it's basically, the way I explain it is like an opportunity for closure.
Closure, yeah.
You're able to say what you need to say, but sentencing is done.
Yeah.
And you just get to say your piece. without interruption that the individual has to listen to.
Oh.
And obviously it's got to be appropriate, no cussing, things like
Yeah.
that. But it's just an opportunity for them to speak
I gotcha.
openly.
And that's
Okay.
their decision.
That must have been what I saw on the Dallas trial because like they hugged and everything.
I think that was the allocution.
I don't know. I can't remember, but
I believe it was.
I can't remember either.
But yeah, that's the victim's decision whether they want to do that or not.
Okay.
And it's because you can think about the range of emotions. Some people are like, I never want to see that person again ever.
Yeah.
Some people want to get up there and say, I forgive you.
Yeah.
And some people are just mad and want to say, this affected me in a really negative way, and you're, this is what I think of you. And
well, I think it's important. I think is that just a Texas thing?
Honestly, I don't know.
If it's not, it should be all over. I mean, if it is just a Texas thing, I think that should be an option everywhere because it, like you said, closure is a big deal. And
but I will say that we usually, state-wise, you're not going to call someone to a stand unless there's a reason for it.
Okay.
And it's going to pertain to an element of the offense to prove the case.
Gotcha.
So I'm just not going to call you willy-nilly because I want to see your pretty face or hear you talk.
I get you.
And then as far as allocutions go, we can read something for the victim if they're unable to get
emotionally
up there and
handle
say,
it. Yeah.
And so sometimes, I've had someone get 2 sentences in and just start crying and just hand me the sheet of paper because they can't do it. Just being in the courtroom with the person was so powerful for them they just couldn't do it.
Dang. Yeah, that's a big deal. That's important. Like I said, I didn't know it was called that. Allocution, you said?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yes,
that's important. Me personally, I think that's important because there's an emotional element that tends to be eliminated from the courtroom, and for good reason. I mean, you're working on just the facts, and you're trying to prove the elements, the offense, stuff like that. So you try to keep the emotional side out of it, but at the end, when it's all said and done, and it's after the judgment. So that's cool. I didn't know that. Again, I haven't sat through something that big, and now you make me kind of want to do it just to say I did it.
Yeah, and you'll have some people say that they want to do it, and then when the time comes, they're like, no, I can't do this. Or vice versa. They'll say, no, there's no way I can do it. And, when the plea deal happens or, the jury trial's over, they say, oh, I want to do it.
Okay.
So.
And it's completely their decision. Mm-hmm. Like it is, if you want to do it, we can do it. If not, that's okay too.
Okay. So I'm gonna wrap this up here in a second. One of the last things that I wanted to talk about is the reason behind air quotes punishment for judgment. Okay. The elements that I believe is 1, rehabilitation. That's one factor. 2, justice for the victim, justice for the family, justice for the state. And then I can't remember what my third one was. Punishment. Yeah, there it was. Punishment. So there's a punishment factor to it. So those are the 3 pillars, correct, for that. In your guys' eyes, those are, I'm not trying to explain for you. I want you to explain to people like how you factor all that in while you're doing what you're doing, while you guys do your job.
So are you talking about like how you prepare for a punishment hearing or the punishment?
Yes.
Yeah. So you just kind of look at what's there. You can look at someone's criminal history and see kind of what kind of person they are. You look at the totality of the circumstances. So the nature and level of the offense. Is this something that's really heinous? Is this something that's not so heinous? Is this a guy like I mentioned earlier? Maybe a person who's a good person who's made a bad mistake, or is this a bad guy who's done a bad thing and that's all that person does?
Yeah.
And I think you can kind of figure out what you think the jury or the judge should have when they go back to make their decision. What you think would be important for them to know.
Yeah.
And I kind of look at it like if I were doing the sentencing, what do I wish? Like if I found out something later, would that have affected me? Would I would have wanted to know that on the front end?
Yeah.
Is that something I would have thought, man, I wish I would have known that.
Do you think that changes over time the longer you do the job?
What you think is relevant to punishment?
Yes.
I guess it can.
Because I know it has for me personally just in doing the police work. I remember when I first started, I'm like, oh my God, he's going 5 over. Get him. And now I'm like, 20 over. That's about it. So, you know what I mean? Like, you get this desensitized a little bit. So I'm just curious, does the same factors go into play for your guys' line of work?
I think at that point, you're just providing information to the decision maker, right?
Okay.
Where we're not doing the plea deal where it's something where the judge or the jury's making a decision.
Mm-hmm.
You're giving information to the person who's going to be making the decision. And then at the end of it, you can make a recommendation. Like you can say, I think that this person deserves at least X number of years or this amount of probation or whatever it is. You can give a recommendation, but really you're providing information to the people making the decision.
Okay.
Cool. And then defense has an opportunity to bring out whatever they want.
Okay.
Call family members, church members, friends, whatever.
Okay. And last one, plea deals. That's the bread and butter for y'all's work, correct?
I mean, I think it's probably the bread. Like, I think it's kind of the basis of the criminal justice system in general.
Yeah.
Like, no matter where you are.
So how does that work for you guys? Like, you get with the defense attorney and you're like, hey, we think he deserves this. And you're like, you know what? I agree with that. Is that how that works?
I mean, it's plea negotiations, exactly what it sounds like. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. Like William said, like, you're looking at the criminal history. You're looking at the facts of the case. Is there a victim involved? Have you talked to that person? What does that individual, what are their thoughts and feelings on, I mean, in the end, it's the state's decision to make the plea offer, but you have all these factors that go into that. You talk to the defense attorney. It was like, hey, is there anything I need to know? Like, what are your thoughts? Like, where are we, you know what I mean?
Okay.
So, I mean, it's a discussion, and then, an offer's made, and it's negotiation. It's exactly what it sounds like.
Okay. And is that done in front of the judge, or is that all behind closed doors between you and the defense, and then you guys present that in front of a judge and this is what I think needs to happen? Or
it's not behind closed doors, but it's not something the judge doesn't mediate every negotiation.
Okay, that's what I was getting at.
The judge doesn't know the facts of the case.
Okay.
Right. And so the only time the judge is going to learn the facts of the case is if someone chooses to go open. And what that means is I'm going to plead guilty, and I want the judge to decide my punishment. So in that case, there's usually some kind of pre-sentencing investigation report. And then several months out, then you have the sentencing, the punishment hearing. And at that point, the judge knows all the facts. He knows all the mitigation, all the aggravation. He knows all the factors, and then he makes a decision. But for the most part, judges don't know the facts of a case.
Okay.
And they're not supposed to. If you're in a trial, you don't want, a judge is not, they don't know.
Okay.
They're learning the facts as the jury's learning the facts.
Gotcha. And
so, the defense attorney and the state, try to come to an agreement. And if they can, they go to the judge and like, look, this is what we agreed upon. Judge, more often than not, I mean, a judge can bust a plea. I've seen that happen.
Yeah. I've heard of that too.
Yeah. But more often than not, judge follows the plea agreement and they go. But it's a negotiation, exactly what it sounds like.
Okay.
You're just trying to, find the best option for everyone, whether that's probation with MHMR, whether it's a diversion program, whether it's, there's so many things that, are there that, because in the end, at least for me, whether there's a victim or not, like I want, because you said there are the three, right? There's punishment, rehabilitation, and justice, right?
Yeah.
If I can do something or what, and maybe, help, do something, whether it's a diversion program or something that maybe, a veteran, whatever, that's maybe going to help so that they don't come back, then I think that's a great option, right? Because, I'm not, you have victims' rights, but I try to look out for the defendant's rights as well, right?
Yeah.
I mean, because in the end, for me personally, I just want things to get better, right? For whether the victim or even, it's a case-by-case thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think people forget, like, everyone's lives are wrapped up in this stuff.
Yeah. There's no cookie cutter response to this stuff. And that's what I try to explain to a lot of people. They want a cookie cutter response. Well, he did this, he should get that. I'm like, that's not how it works.
Because they have so many other factors that come into play. And like William said, you have some people, like, they just do bad things and this is all they've ever done.
Yeah.
Right? And I think in that sense, then I think they're beyond any help that I can provide you.
Yeah.
Right? But then there might be some instance that it's just someone made a really bad mistake. Right? And so you just do what you can, with the information you have, and you just really try to do the right thing across the board. And the defense attorneys really kind of help with that. Like you're really trying to come to the best conclusion possible.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Well, I think this has been very informative, guys. I really appreciate you guys coming out and doing this. I have a million more things that I want to talk about, and I think we have more episodes that I can get out of y'all. But I know y'all are tired and you just got out of work, and this is the last thing you want to do for the next 3 hours. We are exactly 2 hours and 10 minutes into this. So like I told you, it goes by pretty quick. But anything going on with your lives right now that you want to talk about?
Man, just looking forward to some football coming up.
It's coming up.
College football coming up.
Yeah, buddy. You gonna go to any TCU games?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, buddy.
I go to as many college football games as I can.
Yeah.
So.
I usually work the Armed Forces Bowl for sure, and then I ride my bike. I do the bicycle for the football games because you get to hit all the good tailgates. So, but that whole private investigator thing you were talking about, a lot of retired officers do. I'm sorry. Yeah, for the investigators. Yeah, my dad does that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and one of them have a tailgate up at the TCU. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna skip the bike riding this year and go do some of the tailgating.
I don't think I've ever actually tailgated.
Oh, it's a riot.
I can't handle that. I just don't even know. I don't even know how to process that.
I have friends that are huge like Baylor fans, right?
Oh,
and so they have like the season tickets. Apparently, you have a certain spot that you tailgate. Like, it's a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had no idea.
These
you
people
have to fight over the spots.
If you knew the amount of money that they spend on their little tailgate setups, like these guys have like dual 75-inch TVs with speakers, and then we haven't even talked about the food, the smoker, all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't even go in the game. They just sit out there and tailgate. So it's a good time.
Thousands of dollars on that stuff.
Oh, man. Yeah.
I know someone who redid kind of like a booster club trailer where like you'd see at a high school game, they serve hot dogs and hamburgers out of it. We completely redid it to be this kind of tailgate trailer with TVs built in and like an electrical system and, speakers and a satellite dish on top. And he spent all this money in maybe like every weekend for 6 months in a row doing this with his friend. He's like, we almost lost our friendship. I mean, it's like you hammer your own thumb and you're upset. It's hot. And he said that someone came up to him at tailgate and offered him $25,000 for the rig, and he said, I just couldn't do it. He said, I have so much sweat equity in it. And he's like, I can't go through that again. But that's what that stuff is worth. I mean, it's a lot of money.
Yeah, because it's custom towards that particular thing, and they know what they need. They know what everybody else wants to see too. So yeah, it's a good time. You should come. Dude, shoot, you know a lot of people that are out there. So what about you, ma'am? What's life like?
Not much. Just working home. We bought a camper, me and my brother, my sister-in-law. So it's pretty exciting. So I think we're actually going to go camping this weekend. So
okay. Like a big 30-footer? Or?
No, we just got I don't know. It's like 23, 24. It's smaller.
Okay.
Because it's the first one. We just kind of want to figure out like if we like it and if that's something.
So it got the typical like master, another bedroom at the end and then the middle.
It's actually got a Murphy bed.
Yeah.
So in the front, so you pull it up, and in the day it's the couch. You bring it down, and it's a bed, and then the dining room table turns to the bed, and they have 2 bunks in the back.
Nice.
Because it'll be my brother, my sister-in-law, myself, and my niece and nephew.
Okay.
And so, so I'm pretty excited about that.
Okay.
And honestly, like I'm excited because I get to go somewhere, read a book, and everybody can leave me alone.
Yeah. Well, I was just at Lake Fork for 4th of July.
Yeah.
And
I saw that. I was wondering where you were.
Yeah, my dad has same type of thing, and I just sat there and edited one of my episodes staring at the lake.
Oh, it's great.
Like it was a blast. Like probably the fastest episode I've ever edited.
Yeah.
It was that because of the environment.
Yeah, it's great.
I was locked in.
Yeah, I love it. So. I love we talk about the snow apocalypse. Like, we lost the big thing went out. Like we lost cell towers too. So we didn't have electricity for 2 days, and we didn't have cell phone service.
Dang.
So my niece and nephew went ape shit.
I bet.
That's when I started.
That's life.
Well, that's when I started pushing for the camper because I was like, look, like these kids could not go 2 days without that's ridiculous. And so me and my sister-in-law, I read 3 books in 3 days. Like I loved it. Like I didn't have to do anything. I have to go. I sat with my book and it was glorious. Yeah. Drank my coffee in the morning with my book. Had a fireplace going. Like that's right up my alley. Like if I don't have any electronics, I can sit with a book and I don't have to do anything. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's heaven for me.
That's awesome. Yeah, so, I'm with you. I love it. I like sitting by the water and having a good time. But all right, guys. With that, we will end this episode. I appreciate y'all being out here, and hopefully we can get you back.
Thanks for having us.